Robbie Williams Rewind.
Welcome to Robbie Williams Rewind. We are the champions. I'm Matt.
And I'm Lucy.
And along with help from special guest fans, we take you on an in-depth rewind through the solo career of multi-award-winning singer, songwriter and entertainer Robbie Williams.
Hail Keanu. You've heard from some of the cast and crew of Better Man. Now some time has passed and the film has been released nearly everywhere. It's about time that we do our own review episode. We've waited to do this until basically all of the award shows have happened, or nearly all, so that we can actually rewind back over the whole Better Man journey, like we've done for all of Robbie's albums so far.
Yes.
And joining us to do that, we're pleased to welcome Sarina from Germany to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Sarina.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's okay. We're glad to have you on the show.
It's a great pleasure to have you on. How did you become a Robbie fan, Sarina?
Oh, that is a good question. It kind of happened organically. I just remember, I actually told Robbie himself that story. Like, my parents listened to his albums in the car when I was little. And, since I'm German, I couldn't even speak a word in English back then. And I just sang along nevertheless. And then I remember, my mom wanted to switch the CDs and listen to some other stuff because she was, kind of bored to just hear the same songs over and over again. And then she was like, just take them upstairs with you. And so I just listened to them in my room whilst doing my homework. And then I remember, translating the songs and kind of building that connection. And then obviously I wanted to know more about who the singer actually is. And I looked into all of his discography. We didn't even have all the albums. And and that's how I kind of organically slid into becoming a Robbie fan. And it has stuck with me ever since, because it's just been this journey that I was on with so many people involved, all of the friendlies that are parts, some of them are now my best friends, and so it just happened organically, I guess.
Oh, and do you have a favorite song?
Oh my god, the favorite song question. Yeah, I mean, it changes. Does it ever change for you? Because I don't know, it never stays the same for me. Right now I'm really obsessed with Toxic. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah, I love the guitar solo in it.
What about a favorite album?
Oh, that's also so difficult. The first album I remember consciously listening to was definitely Intensive Care. I just remember the "Here I Stand Victorious" at the beginning of it, so iconic as an opening. So that one just has a special place in my heart. And it's the first one, not with Guy Chambers, right? But so it's overlooked by a lot of people in my opinion, but I really love it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Have you got a favorite memory or moment that you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, I was She's the One almost a year ago.
Right. Which concert was that?
The She opening in Schladming.
Oh, yeah.
It was freezing cold.
Yeah, they won in the snow.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And it was open air, so we didn't even get into a warm stadium after queuing in the cold. It was minus 11 degrees Celsius. And we have been queuing since 5 a.m. in the morning.
Oh my God.
So we were freezing. And then obviously the most rewarding thing happened. So that for obvious reasons is my favorite memory.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think you were there with your friend Vivian, weren't you?
Exactly, yeah. With Vivian and her mom, actually.
Right.
Oh.
Lovely. So can you tell us what Robbie means to you?
Oh my God. For me, Robbie is a constant in my life. So many things change over time, and I'm a really nostalgic person. And Robbie songs, I can just go back to, and they will always be the same. They will always sound the same. They will never change. So it's this, I always say that Robbie is a silent mentor for me, because he's been with me all my life without even knowing that. And his songs and his albums, his voice, even if it's new songs that haven't been there with me ever since I was young, they're just home. It's just it just feels like home. Yeah.
And if you could ask him one question or say one thing to him, what would it be?
I don't know if I would want to ask him a question. I would just the one thing I would like to tell him is that he taught me how to music. Right. That is I don't know why, but that's been on my mind forever. I just want to tell him that his music because he has this great variety of songs, like so many genres and stuff. Like he taught me what kind of, like, he was just the number one factor in building a music taste for me.
Right.
And and probably something revolving around the fact that there are so many different genres in his repertoire. Yeah.
Any other great memories that you want to share?
Oh my God, just so many with, like, I mean, I met, like you mentioned, Vivian, like, I met Vivian through the Robbie fandom. And I think we've known each other for over 10 years now. And we've been best friends, like, ever since we met each other. Like, we messaged each other because we kind of like commented on the same Robbie post on Instagram back then. Like, we haven't even, like, we haven't gotten back to that post. Like, we don't know what post it is actually. Then we just, like, we met each other, and ever since we were like inseparable and went to all of the concerts together. And I met so many lovely people there. And just the queuing experience is like, like a family reunion. Like, whenever you get to a queue and there's people you didn't even know were going to be there.
Yeah.
And I just love that feeling of like, being at a Robbie concert is also like being home again, like,
Yeah, it's true.
Very true.
And yeah, I think it's like bringing people together. And I don't know, like, also his concerts, like, I mean, when he starts with Let Me Detain You, I get the same feeling of excitedness, like, every single time, and it never ceases. Like, it's just always like the excitement of seeing Robbie in front of me in just a few minutes and having him perform this whole show and this with this great energy. Yeah.
Oh.
And of course, that's how we met you, isn't it? In Munich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that so vividly. Yeah.
So should we go on to Better Man, the reason we're here?
Yeah, let's do it. So before we begin discussing our thoughts on the film, let's look back at some of the amazing reviews the film received and some of the stats surrounding it.
Movie website Rotten Tomatoes collates all top critics' reviews from around the world and takes all of their scores to create an overall percentage for a movie, which they call the tomato meter. Better Man was certified fresh on the 2nd of January based on 92 critics' reviews, achieving 91%, and it still stands at 88% now with 191 critics' reviews.
They also accept ratings from the general public to create a score for their popcorn meter. Once they've received enough ratings, they publish the score, which was 98% on the 2nd of January, and the popcorn meter is still at 93% based on over 1,000 ratings.
Better Man received 5-star reviews in Time Out, Discussing Film and Digital Spy, and 4-star reviews in The Telegraph, The Financial Times, Empire, Radio Times, The Independent, The Observer, The Irish Times, and Metro. That's just to name a few.
David Sims from The Atlantic said it properly delves into its subject's erratic persona, using the musical segments to advance the story instead of as mandatory breaks in the action. The result is one of the most thoughtfully constructed movies about a musician I've seen in years.
The Observer said the capering ape device transforms what would otherwise be a rote addition to the rock biopic canon, infusing the story with humour, mischief and a sparky, unpredictable anarchy.
The Los Angeles Times said, if you could tear your eyes away from the screen enough to check a stopwatch, not 1 minute goes by without a flourish that's either funny, ridiculous, stunning or emotional.
And then moving on to the awards and nominations that Better Man's received.
The Australian Academy of Cinema and TV Arts, the ACTors, gave Better Man 16 award nominations, which was a record in its 66-year history. It won Best Film, Direction in Film, Lead Actor for Jono, Supporting Actor for Damon Harriman, who played Nigel Martin Smith, Best Screenplay, Editing, Soundtrack, Casting and Original Score. It also won Best Film and Best Direction in Film at the International Actor Awards. Wow.
Big up to the Australians. They know how to watch films, clearly. Better Man won the Film Award at the Rolling Stone UK Awards 2024. It received 4 nominations at the Visual Effects Society Awards and won Outstanding Character in a Photoreal Feature. It was also nominated at the Annie Awards for Character Animation in a Live Action Production and the Critics' Choice Awards for Best Visual Effects. It was also nominated at the BAFTAs for Best Visual Effects as well.
It's nominated at the Oscars for Best Visual Effects, The ceremony takes place on the 2nd of March, and it's nominated at Motion Picture Sound Editor Awards for music editing, which takes place tomorrow, according to when we're recording.
It also received nominations from the Hollywood Music in Media Awards, Discussing Film Critics Awards, and Film Association Awards in Austin, Washington, D.C., Indiana, Utah, and Central Florida.
Now, let's get the box office talk out of the way. So for those of you that have been following it, there's been a lot of talk about the film flopping financially, apparently, due to Paramount Pictures spending $25 million on the distribution rights for North America and only making $2 million at the box office there. The film apparently cost $110 million to create, and we believe marketing costs would have been on top of that.
However, the film was independently financed with investment from Vic Screen and Screen Australia, who essentially subsidised it through grants, meaning the net cost of making the film is probably less than $110 million as far as we understand.
Better Man is the largest feature film ever made in Victoria. Vic Screen has said that Better Man created almost 3,000 jobs for local Victorians. It worked with 841 local businesses and injected 142 million Australian dollars into direct Victorian expenditure. There's now a Weta studio in Melbourne as a result of this movie, so it sounds as though Vic Screen has already received a good return on their investment, so the film might not be quite the financial flop it's been described as.
Rob was given the keys to the city of Melbourne on the 2nd of January as a result of the benefits Better Man brought to Melbourne, Victoria, and he played a free concert in Federation Square at the ceremony. Up to the 26th of January, Better Man had made $19.7 million at the worldwide box office, 7.8 million of that in the UK, 3.2 million in Australia, 2.1 million in Germany, and 1.6 million in France. Actually, the film has not been released everywhere yet. It's still yet to be released in South America. So Mexico, Brazil, a lot of countries where Robbie's famous, it's still due to come out around now and then in the next couple of weeks. So
as of our time of recording.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's also fair to say that the distribution of the films is still ongoing. So cinema box office is one thing, but actually streaming, DVD, Blu-ray, the other channels that it's going to go out on will also bring money in. So shall we move on to the film itself?
Yeah, let's talk about the film. That's why we're here. So as we usually do with our review episodes of the albums, we're going to go through the film chronologically, talking about the film, our favourite scenes, and then we'll discuss the soundtrack songs as we go through as well.
So when was the first time that you saw the film, Sarina, and how did you feel sitting there in the cinema?
Yeah, I was lucky enough to attend the Germany premiere in December. I think it was December 8th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was obviously very special to just have like half of the cinema, because I think there were like 3 cinema halls just full of friendlies.
Yeah.
And we met him before, like he walked the red carpet and the tension was like building. So that was like so special to be there in the cinema, to have them walk in there and say a couple of words. I don't know, did you attend the London premiere, right?
Yeah, just on the red carpet outside.
Oh, just the red carpet, okay.
Only that bit, yeah.
Okay, because I think in the like European mainland premieres, he walked into the halls and then also sang like a bit of like Angels, like at least he did that for us.
Yeah,
that was really, that was really cool. And I was just like, I went to it so blindly. Like I even tried to not really watch the trailer because I just wanted to be so surprised by the style, by how the whole monkey thing works, and I was just so excited. So
you hadn't even seen the trailer?
I hadn't even really seen the trailer, just, a couple of stills. Yeah.
Wow.
God, that's amazing. Self-control.
I had to discipline myself. But some of my friends, they analyzed every bit of it, every frame of the trailer, had like theories, and I tried to not watch too much.
God. So, I mean, we saw it the 17th of December, I think.
Yeah.
Managed to go to a screening for kind of journalists. And so there's only about 10 people in the cinema or something.
It was the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Because obviously for us, it was, for any fan, it was such a massive thing to go and see it. And we needed to go and see it because we were doing interviews with some of the cast and crew, and, you know, it's helpful to know what's in the film. But it was first thing in the morning, wasn't it?
Yeah, 10 a.m.
Oh, that's a weird time to go see a movie.
Bit strange. And it was in Leicester Square, but not in the same cinema that the premiere was in, just across the road from it. And as you said, Lucy, it was quiet. There was no music playing. We went in. There was no adverts. There was just like one person like who signed us in. So it's really eerie and quiet, kind of a bit cold. And then we just sat there for quite a while with a couple of journalists were chatting to each other. And then it just came on. And it was just it was a bit strange, actually. But it hit us pretty hard. It certainly hit me pretty hard.
Yeah.
I had the morning off of work, and then I had to go on a train to Manchester in the afternoon. And we didn't really have a chance to properly talk about it with each other. And as you know, Sarina, and people that are listening, so bloody much happens in that film that 2 minutes afterwards doesn't suffice to talk about what we've just witnessed.
Absolutely not.
So we both left in an emotional wreck, really. I mean, I sat on the train and tried to do some work, and I was still thinking about what I'd just seen. It was had that much of an impact on me.
Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of went home in a bit of a daze and couldn't even really hardly look at my phone. I was just like, oh my God.
The journalists, they obviously weren't as big of a Robbie fan as you are. Oh, that's so strange, because I had this experience with 3 cinema halls packed with Robbie Williams fans, and the soundtrack was playing before, and during the film, I just heard sniffing and weeping, the quiet parts, and so a totally different experience, but obviously it just had the same aftermath for both of us, or all of us.
We were sniffing and weeping, but I'm not sure how everyone else was in our one.
And we were laughing out loud, but I don't know whether
we were all
else
sat
did.
so far apart you couldn't really hear what other people were doing.
No.
So, but we have been with friends and with fans since, so we do know what it's like to go with a group.
Yeah,
that's good.
But obviously it changes the more you watch it. It doesn't quite pull on your heartstrings quite so hard. I mean, that first time, goodness.
Yeah.
Let's get into it then.
Yeah, so the monkey.
What's with a monkey?
Yeah, what is he a monkey or is he an ape? I think we'll refer to him as a monkey because, me and my monkey, the monkey on his back. He's a cheeky monkey, he's a performing monkey.
Straighten up and fly right.
Yeah. So that's why we call him a monkey, even though apparently he's an ape.
Oh, I didn't even know that. I only heard people talk about him as a monkey.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of people get angry on Twitter or Facebook. We've had comments and stuff saying he's not a monkey, he's an ape. Monkeys have tails and he hasn't got a tail, therefore he's an ape or a chimpanzee.
Okay.
And there are people getting really quite angry about it.
Oh wow! Okay, well, I haven't heard that, but that's weird.
So
the hardcore biologists.
Yes, we've acknowledged the political correctness, or not, of the statement. So we will call him a monkey.
So now we'll continue to call him a monkey,
Right.
even though we know that's
as
not.
everyone else does.
Yeah.
He identifies as a monkey, so
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And as I pointed out, monkeys don't also sing and dance, so.
right.
It's not real, so
and they're not this large.
Let's not worry about it.
It's just
Glad
a
you
movie.
pointed that out.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea that he was a monkey because it made it different. And I know the Americans, when they were watching the film and the few that did, who didn't know Robbie, said that it helped because they could always pinpoint which member of Take That was meant to be Robbie. Because as far as they were concerned, it was just 5 guys and they said, I read comments where the others kind of just looked the same and blended together. So it helped to have Robbie stand out. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think for me going in, I was concerned because, a bit like Sarina, I tried not to look at too much. I did see the trailer, obviously, and we did look at quite a few things, but I'm pleased that I didn't see a lot of the film, and I'm pleased that they didn't leak too much. And it was a long time before we actually saw a picture of the monkey.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
A long, long time. They kept that under wraps really, really well. And obviously we knew there was some CGI chimp coming out. There was something like that happening. But it was a really long time before that properly came out. And I must admit, when I first saw it, I was a little bit, as I said, concerned, because I was like, oh, is it going to work? But then I thought, it's Michael Gracie. I've got utter faith in him being able to make it work. And it did. And I think we've said before when we were talking with some of the cast, after a few minutes, it just looks like a normal actor in the film.
Yeah.
And because the facial expressions are so humanistic, yeah, I don't think you completely forget about it. It's still there.
Yeah.
But it's not like watching Planet of the Apes or anything. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that's Robbie.
Yeah, because he has Robbie's
it as Robbie,
expressions, doesn't he?
and his eyes. Yeah. So, what about you, Sarina?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I first heard that he was going to be played by the CGI monkey, and I was just like, oh, this is going to be like one of these silly Robbie projects. They're just like, when like first news broke, and I think like when the news first broke, I couldn't even differentiate between the documentary and the film. I just like there was just news that there was going to be a Robbie Williams project, like something film or documentary, whatever. And so I confused those like years ago in my head. I was like, so a documentary about Robbie with him as a monkey, like what is happening? But it's very Robbie. And I was just concerned because people were like, oh, well, yeah, Robbie Williams doing his weird thing again. But then when the documentary came out and then the film afterwards started being promoted, I had definitely more faith in the project.
Yeah.
And then I realized that it's actually a brilliant idea. And I also just trusted Michael Gracie, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing.
And it just works, doesn't it? It works because it's a metaphor, it's a device. And I won't talk about it because we're going to talk about it in the film as we go through the scenes, but it works on so many levels. It isn't just him being the monkey that's being played. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The way it's used later on in the film makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And actually, Vivian and I had an Instagram fan account for Robbie, which was called Us and Our Monkey, like back in the day, which is insane. And we had like a chimpanzee as the profile picture. So we kind of called it.
Wow, that's weird.
Oh, well done.
And it's nice, isn't it, that Jono has been given the opportunity to play Robbie. And he can own the whole part as well. You know, he's doing the voice and obviously he's not doing all the singing because that's Adam Tucker. And as Robbie has said, he couldn't have been apart from his family for 4 months or however it was in Australia to film it. And he's not an actor. So I think it's better to have an actor play it.
Yeah, I remember there being talks that Robbie was going to play James Bond at one point, like in the past. And I remember he declined because he was like, yeah, I'm not an actor. And so, yeah, it just makes sense. And I also think it's a good thing that it's not like he himself playing himself, because otherwise it's just this like, I'm going to make this big project about myself. And now it's just a project honoring him, really.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better that way, definitely. They did such a great job with the monkey in general, didn't they? With all the different hairstyles.
Oh.
The tattoos.
The tattoos were amazing, weren't they?
Yeah.
I didn't notice them so much the first time I watched the film. It's only when I watched back that I even noticed the tattoos.
Yeah, same, actually. I only noticed the, my French, Chacun son goût.
Yes, that one.
Like on the chest, yeah. Yeah, because he was on the beach with Guy, right?
Yes, the aerial shot down on them. Yeah.
That one. But yeah, I didn't notice them first as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've watched a few interviews with Weta, and it's just amazing what they did. I don't know, people that maybe don't understand that it wasn't just CGI. It was like the world's best CGI that you could ever do. I mean, the interviews with them, like, there's experts interviewing them, and they're like, how did you even do that? Like, hair moving and all the costumes were all CGI on Jono. Yet they look exactly like what the other Take That boys are wearing when they're dancing. The movement of them, everything. There's water, there's every kind of challenge that they could have had, they were talking about lens flares. And, Michael Gracie likes this stylistic sort of transition and lens flares. So you see a lot of lighting effects. So the light being shined straight into the camera or lens flares moving around. They had to CGI all of that. So if that was in the shot, they had to continue that when they did the CGI. And it's just, honestly, they went into the minutiae of detail, didn't they, in the interview?
Yeah.
But unbelievable what they did.
Yeah, incredible.
Very rightfully nominated for so many like visual effect awards
Definitely.
and stuff like that.
Well, because it gets to the point where you look at it and you go, it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt that it's
just real.
CGI. It's real.
Just proving the point from earlier.
Yeah.
I just love the looks of the film in general, like the grainy texture.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I just love it because it just goes along with this creative vision of not being like really authentic when it comes to the timeline and to the actual events, and it just goes along with that. It just feels like a memory because it is a memory, and it feels like kind of just so creative, and it just has this tone to it.
Yeah,
it does.
And also because it's kind of set in the 80s and 90s, and TV and
no HD
stuff was grainier then.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Yeah,
it makes it feel as though you look on this or to this distant memory from a distant past, like you know.
Yeah.
And another thing that differentiates the film from other biopics, which is what a lot of reviewers said, was how honest the film was and how Rob really showed all his warts and the kind of the more negative side. And he did tell Mike Hosking, a New Zealand radio host, before the film came out, "They're very lucky that I want to expose myself more than anybody exposes themselves. Most people want to do some sanitized version of themselves because they're scared of giving too much of their real life away, and the audience can smell that, and I don't respond very well myself as an audience member to that, so I won't be doing that." That's very true.
Yes.
And I think that was a positive for the film, that it was very honest.
Yeah.
It's very Robbie. That's just like, I think Robbie's always quite honest with everything. And he never like embellishes things. So yeah.
Yeah, he's very open, very vulnerable. Always has been, right from the beginning. We've talked about it a bit on the show as well, about his mental health and how he always talked about that, whereas now it's kind of a bit more accepted to talk about that and addictions and other challenges in your life, whereas he's always talked about it and always been open about it. Sometimes it's been taken in the wrong way, particularly by the press.
Yeah.
And when we were rewatching the film today, actually, in preparation for this interview, I can't remember the exact line, but Pete, his dad, says something like, at least I remember it, people don't pay money to hear about your problems.
Yeah.
And actually, I just turned to Lucy and said, well, that's not true, because he's made a career out of it.
Meta, yeah.
Because he's basically told us a biography of his life through his songs and the challenges that he's had. And, and that's what a lot of people can obviously relate to. So the film is an extension of that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the monkey. We've talked about Rob and the film and how honest it is. So let's go into it. So the film opens with young Robbie, and they're in the streets of Stoke playing football. I found this quite an interesting opening to the film, actually. Obviously, you've got Rob's preamble, so he's talking at the beginning. So he starts with narrating kind of the opening, his opening speech, and then just as the camera is panning across to the kids playing football, it's weird because we've watched it a couple of times, and then I saw in the credits that Kids was in the film, and I said to Lucy, "Where's Kids?" I don't know whether you ever heard it, Sarina, but it's like, where's Kids in the film? And so, we're scouring the credits, and then we were like, I really can't remember it. And it was like, was it in the background on a radio somewhere? No, we'd have heard it. And then, it's actually the bass line to Kids is playing straight after Rob's opening speech.
Yeah. when at the beginning of the football scene?
No way.
Yeah.
I never realized that.
No, it's
That's
crazy,
not-
isn't it?
Genius, yeah.
It took us a long time to find it. And,
So if you haven't spotted that, then go and have a listen, and listeners go and have a listen too, and you will hear the bass line just playing along in the background. It's kind of hard to pick up because it's a little bit
because it just feels like background music.
slightly remixed, I think. But yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
And I guess it's appropriate because it's kids, and it's kids playing
Yeah, it makes
football
sense.
in Stoke.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so we get our first glimpse of the monkey, the young Robbie there.
Yeah, I
What
guess
did you
this
think
was
about that?
Carter playing him, because I believe there was a few children that played young Robbie. There's a couple of names on the credits.
Yeah.
So it's hard to be sure exactly which one's doing which scene, but I'm pretty sure Carter was the football monkey because those scenes were filmed in the UK, and he did say that he filmed in the UK. He's cute wearing his little portrayal top, isn't he?
Adorable, yeah. This is where it really works with having a monkey for the emotional value of it as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, and don't they
Especially-
go in for the emotional value? Like, I didn't
Yeah.
expect that first scene to be as hard hitting as that. It's like,
Right.
oh, here's the underdog, not getting picked for the team. You're in goal. You've got to do that. And then kicking the ball right at his head, and then just like, basically verbally abusing him and just, just being mean to him. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, and then you suddenly feel for the little monkey, don't you, straight away. So, yeah, immediately they do that to you.
Setting the tone for the rest of the film, basically.
Yeah. Then we move into their house and we meet Steve Pemberton playing Pete and Kate Mulvaney playing his mum. And his dad's quite a character straight away, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
In the policeman's outfit, because he was a policeman. But then I think the key bit is when it's the bath scene with his nan. And that's when you really get a feel for, the love that he's feeling in his home environment.
Especially for Betty, yeah.
Yeah. And then, the light shining on his chest in the bath when she says, "This might feel good, but this is what matters. You're enough." Oh, doesn't that melt your heart?
Absolutely.
Mm.
It kind of establishes the kind of relationship he has with his grandma. Like, his grandma is the one person who sees him for not the entertainer. Like, also, obviously, he sees the entertainment gene in him, but she also sees the person.
Yes.
And I think that's so important, like, this kind of relationship.
Yeah, it was so nice. Also, what's really cute in the bath scene is how Rob's got his hair all spiked up.
Yeah.
And it's a bit
like
like...
the Escapology era.
Yeah. Well, and that reminds me of the Feel bath when he's in the bath in the Feel video as well.
Yes.
Reminiscent of that.
Well, and it's what you do with your kids when they're little. You get the hair and you push it up like that. I remember doing that with ours. They wouldn't let you do it now, but I think it's just a lovely, just down-to-earth scene. It's just, it's evening time, you're getting ready for bed, you're having a bath.
Yeah.
It's, a very poignant way to sort of kick off the film, really, and show his relationship with his nan.
And wasn't Alison Steadman incredible playing his nan?
Absolutely.
She's an amazing actress. Do you have Gavin and Stacey in Germany?
Yeah, I mean, on the TV it's dubbed, so I don't
Right.
really watch it. But I I know some famous scenes from YouTube and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
So I
I just wondered. Yeah, I wondered if
Yeah.
it was famous outside the UK.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
absolutely iconic here because of that. Well, and other things that she's done, but that in particular. And she's
Yeah.
an incredible actress.
Yeah, she's so well cast in this film. Like, I did see someone on Twitter saying something about, I watched Gavin and Stacey last night and then I watched Better Man tonight. And it wasn't until I was watching the credits at the end of Better Man that I even realised that it was Alison Steadman, who had only literally watched on telly the night before, and I didn't even put them together. She played such an amazing part. She was just Betty, Yeah.
Same thing happened for me with Pete. Actually, like I don't think I've seen the actor in anything before that movie. I'm not sure, but then like a couple of days later, I saw a film or a TV show, and I was like, where do I know this actor from? And I couldn't figure it out. And because Better Man was just out, or not really out yet, because I was at the premiere, it wasn't listed on his filmography yet. So I didn't figure it out until like weeks later when I was like, I still have to figure out who this one person is. And then it clicked and yeah, just remembered it's Robbie's dad.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve Pemberton's an amazing actor, isn't he?
Yeah, he started off with comedy, actually, when he got together with the Reese, I can't remember his surname, but they were in the League of Gentlemen, which was a very dark comedy show over here. And then he's done lots of other things, but the other thing that's well known over here is Inside Number 9, which I've binge watched over the past couple of months because for some reason I missed that. But he's incredible because he was every show they were a different actor, different part, and they played men and women. And he's just a very versatile actor when you see him playing a different part every single episode in that. So, and he was great. I mean, like, as you say, Alison was incredible as his nan, and he was just amazing as his dad.
Yeah.
Kate Mulvaney was also incredible, but didn't really get so much. There wasn't so much of a connection or a relationship there. You know, she did an amazing job, but yeah, it was Nan and Dad that were the main characters really in it with him.
Yeah. One weird thing, obviously, is that there's no mention of his sister Sally.
Oh, right, the strip characters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of strange.
Yeah.
And also, it's kind of weird that they make out that Nan is living with Rob and his mum, but that was his dad's mum, Betty.
Yeah, it's so weird.
So it's kind of odd that they've put Nan into that house, and then later on at the funeral, I don't think you can even see Pete there. So I guess they've made it to be his mum's mum in the film.
I was wondering if they did that, or if it was just like, even though she's Pete mum's, she stayed with Robbie's mum, which would be a weird dynamic, but yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't get my head around it.
Didn't really mention it, did they?
No.
It was just there.
Just Nan. Yeah.
Mm.
For convenience sake, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
It worked, yeah.
And then I love how it goes on to Feel then. Oh, Feel.
Yeah, oh my God.
That pulls on the heartstrings, doesn't it?
I mean, it does anyway, like, you know, the song itself, but like with the little monkey singing it. That was, I think, the first time I started bawling. One of so many instances in the movie, but yeah.
Yeah, when he watches that bus pull away with his dad on it and he's just stood in that street on his own.
Well, it catches you unaware because, you know, there's no build-up. Obviously there's a very emotional scene. Like you say, he's behind the bus and then he's there. But then, bang, there comes the song. And it's like, whoa, where did that come from? He just starts singing.
Yeah.
And even though I knew it was a musical, obviously, I don't know why I wasn't expecting the song to come there. And then because it was the childlike voice, oh, my goodness. That was just
cute.
like, oh. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Carter did a great job singing that song.
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic, yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, he on his Instagram, I think his mum runs his Instagram page, but they shared a video of him recording Feel in the studio.
I haven't seen that.
And it's really cute to see little Carter's face with the headphones on, singing in the studio. Yeah.
Okay. As I paid attention to the lyrics, and I was hoping that they would actually have the right lyrics in it, with like "fill the home that I live in."
Yes.
The misconception that it's "feel the home that I live in."
Yes.
And they actually fill in it. So I was really happy with that. But I also love the lyric changes, like "feel the life ever after," and then and then the new, like, just generally, obviously, like all of his songs being deployed as musical numbers rather than in the context that they were created in. It just so fitting as the first song. Like it just sets the thematic tone, and then that scene with "come and hold my hand," and when he's actually holding out his hand, and then "not sure I understand this role I've been given." Just so it just establishes this whole theme of having it that Pete and like his dad and here talking about. Yeah.
I think this opening, well, it's not the opening song, but the first sort of song shows how you can tell a story through a song really well. Because we were watching it again today, and I said, you know, they're moving out of the pub, basically, aren't they? And then suddenly he's in the front room of the place that his nan and his mum move into, you know, and it's almost seamless. It's another one of Michael Gracey's incredible transitions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it tells a very poignant story of his dad leaving and them having to move out the pub and everything. Yeah, and it's very emotional, that scene.
Yeah.
You really feel the little
monkey.
Robbie.
And his little legs dangling off the chair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sweet.
And then obviously the way it transitions into the Better Man title screen,
Title card,
where it goes down the corridor and then it goes between the letters, and then suddenly the lights flash on and it says Better Man. And
then there's a time jump.
Yeah, it's so well done.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
And then, so it cuts into the careers office, and suddenly we meet Jono with his perm.
Oh, yeah, right. The first hairdo. Iconic, yeah.
I still can't believe that Robbie actually had a perm at some point.
He had so many hairdos. Like, I feel like he changed. I mean, I'm 28 years old, so I wasn't there for the whole Take That era.
Yeah.
But when I look at pictures or I see pictures online of him, I feel like he changed his hair every second week or something. Because there are just so many different hairdos and hairstyles and colors and all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really
incredible.
were. He did used to change it a lot.
Yeah. And of course, you get a massive time shift, don't you? So you go from little Robbie right the way up to age 15 Robbie at school, thinking about what his first job's going to be. Yeah, and it's a very amusing scene, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically recreating Hello Sir, which we all know, the song from, poem from Life Through a Lens. But I do find it weird that the careers officer hands him a leaflet, but he hands him the nursing leaflet, not the army leaflet.
I didn't even pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Oh.
But we all know he gave him an army, said join the army. So that was weird.
Yeah. And then, of course, we move on to the Nebworth billboard, which is very poignant to see the Nebworth reference there right at the beginning.
With Nate.
With Nate, yes.
So there's been lots of comments that I've read. People saying that it's Johnny Wilkes that is Robbie's friend throughout the whole film. But it needs to be pointed out that Johnny is 4.5 years younger than Robbie. So there's no way in the world Robbie would have been age 15, drinking and smoking with an 11-year-old on a billboard. It's just not, it wouldn't have happened. And so when they say that the character Nate is an amalgamation of all of Robbie's friends, it's clearly true because, it's clear that a lot of these early scenes were not Johnny. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I also wondered if the name was chosen because of, I just kept on thinking back to the 90s, like the song The 90s.
Yes.
Because of Ned and Tate.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's Nate, as a conjoined word of both.
Yeah, I thought that as well, yeah. I would say.
It was also interesting when we talked to Fraser about playing Nate. He told us that scene on the billboard, I think Michael just asked them just to do some improv. They had lines, but he said, just go for it, just improv, just chat with each other, just talk, just take the piss out of each other. And he said that they were there improving for a really, really long time, and a lot of it they couldn't use because it was so blue. So basically, I think they wanted to get them into the mood of banter with friends. So yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely
I hope
banter.
the DVD has takeouts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yes, I do.
And then they move on to having breakfast in the house and the radio comes on. So that's kind of weird because that's not how the audition happened, is it, with Take That? I'm sure his mum saw an advert or she wrote in to Nigel. I'm not really sure which. And then
it was an advert in the local paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, was it?
In the paper, yeah.
Yeah. And then obviously Rob went to meet Nigel, and then only 6 people turned up to Take That audition and only 1 person didn't get in, and no one actually knows who that 1 person is, apparently. But anyway, the funny bit of the scene is him coming out of the door saying, I'm going to be fucking famous. That neighbour shouts, oh, fuck off, Glenn. Sorry, he says, oh, fuck off, Glenn, to the person.
Yes. Yeah, and then so we're on to the famous audition itself.
Yeah, we meet Damon Herriman as Nigel.
Yes.
He does a great job, doesn't he?
Oh, incredible. Got a certain level of nastiness about him, hasn't he?
Yeah.
As he plays that role.
Yeah, just talking about the audition, I think Take That, I was listening to their This Life podcast, and they said that the audition was actually the 21st of May 1990, which would have made Rob 16. And it's kind of annoying in the film and just generally that they keep referring to Rob as being 15.
This is Lucy's the biggest bee she has on her bonnet, this one. She goes on about it a lot. I hear it a lot. But it is a good point.
So, later on in the film, he's like, I got famous at 15 and all of that, and I'm stuck at being 15.
It's a big thing, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's a big thing. But he was 16, and we all know it. Because he'd already done his GCSEs when he got in the band. You do your GCSEs when you're 16, you get the results in the summer. He would have been 16 and a half when he got those results. He was 16 and a half when he joined to Take That. He was not 15. And that's my biggest bugbear. I don't care about meddling with the timelines or like fiddling with other stuff, but that in particular has just it bugs
It's sacrosanct for you, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Messing with ages.
Well, it's quite a difference between being 15 and 16.
At that
16
age,
is an important
yes,
age,
it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It sounds more dramatic at 15.
Yeah, and that's obviously why
It's
they've
for
gone with
dramatic
15.
effect.
yeah.
And the only reason it ever went back to 15 was because Take That released their Odyssey album and they wanted to tour and mark the 30th anniversary, was it, of Take That or something. And it worked better for them if they made out they met in 1989. And, they did. They literally changed it. They basically said, "Oh, we met in 1989." But for years it had always been 1990, and suddenly they're saying it was 1989.
They didn't expect statos like you to be checking up on their dates.
Any fan knows that it was 1990 that they met.
And I mean, if it was in May, it's been like 5 months into the year, so.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, that's my little side. Sorry. I also like how Nigel's assistant says, he makes my tizzer go foo about the guy dancing to La Bamba, because that's such a Robbie line. And I love how there's these little Robbie lines sprinkled throughout the film.
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole humor, the whole sarcasm of the whole movie is just so Robbie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, this is where Nigel is properly introduced for those people that have not heard about Nigel Martin Smith before. Obviously, we'll be going careful what we say at this point. So I love the bit where he says Nigel was, for legal reasons, an absolute sweetheart and a first-class cunt. I mean, it was so... It was amusing for us to hear the line, because obviously we know that he's been in legal battles and challenges with Nigel before about saying certain things. So to hear the sweetheart bit, but then the bit after, I think for us fans, it was like even more funny, the fact that they'd somehow got that agreed to be able to say that in the film. You know, I guess it's considered to be a point of view about somebody else. I don't know.
It's subjective. Yeah.
Exactly. But it was just a funny line. I mean, we laughed out loud at that, didn't we?
Definitely, yeah. And then obviously it has to be pointed out that Rob did actually sing Jason Donovan's song "Nothing Can Divide Us" at his audition. He didn't sing "Straighten Up and Fly Right." So another little tweak to the story that they've added.
But also, I think, like, a nod to the song, like his swing eras, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Jason Donovan at all, but obviously changing the song made it more dramatic, a bit more, like, talked about, the beginning of the song talks about a monkey.
Yeah.
Oh, then the transition goes to him singing in a nightclub type environment rather than in the audition room, which works for that kind of lounge type music.
Yeah. You see little pirate Robbie talking to him. Well, his vision of the pirate Robbie.
Yeah, that's where we first see the demons coming out.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you often see the demons in the audience, and that was the first one, yeah.
I guess because he was feeling insecure at the moment, in that moment, and so that's why we start to see the demons.
It's whenever, like, his inner voices are bad-mouthing him, basically, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a shock, wasn't it, the first time they that appears. You're like, whoa.
Yeah, and I didn't
here?
expect them to be like a motive throughout the film.
Yeah.
And it ended up being probably the most important one.
Yeah.
And it's always a real gruff, scary voice, like, oh God. It's like, ooh. It's not very nice. Angry face. Then we move on to him being with his nan, Betty, where he's waiting to hear about the audition.
He says, do I look like a pop star to you? And she says, you look like you always look. Which is just so nice. And he's like, exactly.
And of course,
That's
also, the two Ronnies are playing on the TV in the background. And he's walking around with the old-fashioned rotary phone as well. Quite amusing, on a wire.
When Jono does that scream as he runs back in to grab the phone when it's ringing, and he jumps over the table or the sofa. My God.
Yeah, I know.
So good. So
I wonder if they had like a stuntman for that, or if Jono did that.
Yeah. Amazing. And obviously then it moves on to the summer camp, and Rob's with his dad. His dad's not really listening to him, basically. It makes you feel really sad to watch that, I thought.
So he's trying to tell him that he got in the boy band, but, well, I'm not in it yet. And then he also tells him that he's failed all his exams, and his dad's basically, just ignoring him and telling him, you've got to learn from this, son. But he's talking about the entertainment that he's seeing. Yeah. And then tells him off for moving the spotlight, or not moving the spotlight.
Yeah. So it's when you first start to see that the relationship isn't really so good, but yeah. So, I mean, Rob did used to go and spend the summer with his dad, I think every summer. So the fact that they have made out that they had this long period where they didn't see each other, I don't think that's true. I think Robbie always spent his summer holidays with his dad in the caravan parks. And also, obviously, I think he left the family when Rob was about 3 or 4 or something. So he probably doesn't even really remember his dad leaving.
Yeah, true. Then we find out he's in the band, and obviously that's when he's with his mum. And they're just outside the house, and only 2 or 3 of those houses on the street were actually a set. The rest was CGI'd, which looks absolutely incredible, because it really looks like a street
realistic.
in Stoke. And then obviously you get the, oh, fuck off, Glenn, again. So that's quite funny. I don't know why I find the Glenn bits funny. They're just funny, just shouting across the street like that.
Well, it's because it's his mum saying it that time as well, isn't it?
And then, oh, sorry, yeah.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was just, because, I just went through all the lyrics of the 90s while watching the movie for the first time. And I just kept on going to, you're in that boy band, son. Come and give us the kiss. Put a button on Rich and carry on getting pissed.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's totally going through my head as well. Which is, again, why it proves he was 16.
Here we go.
Sorry.
And, of course, we get treated to Candy. So Candy got selected as the song to celebrate that moment in the film where he was accepted into the band. So
I think a lot of Americans do actually know Candy. It had a bit of a viral moment on TikTok. Is it Martin Scorsese, I think? His daughter made a video of him with that song in the background, and it went mad.
I also remember, like, years ago that Robbie reposted a video of a truck on the highway, I think, driving past him with Candy blasting.
Really?
In the loudspeakers. Yeah, but it was like 10 or 12 years ago or something.
What, in America?
Yeah, in LA, yeah.
Oh, I don't remember that at all. That's cool.
But it's got massive energy, that song. It's the right kind of upbeat song to lift the film at that point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've had a couple of sort of sad moments, and now it's like, okay, here we go.
It's a real roller coaster ride.
Yeah. And so we move on to meeting Take That for the first time, which is extremely exciting. So we get Howard first, played by Liam, and he's a panel beater. He was actually a vehicle painter, not a panel beater.
Wouldn't look the same on there.
No, it was the whole effect of him like hitting the car with his chest out. You wouldn't have that if he was painting a car, would you? That's really effective. And then Jason Orange, played by Chase, and I love the little dance thing that he does when he's like going upside down with the other Is it another dancer or is
Yeah,
it
it
like
is.
him again?
No, it's
like
another
going
dancer.
Round?
They're
It is
sort of
another.
intertwined with each other, rolling around.
Yeah. And then little Marco in the bank. Little Marco was lovely.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite lines in the film, I think. And then the best bit.
Wow. When Gary comes in his jumpers and trainers that was so 3 years ago. Oh. There's something about the way that Jake walks into that room. Like we watched it again today, and there's something about the way he does it. The door opens, and he sort of steps in, and the camera goes into focus on him. And then he sort of wiggles his arm, does a little bit of a move, and then carries on walking. It's something really awkward about it. It's really, he's got it down so well.
It's brilliant. Honestly.
Absolutely.
We laughed so much at that.
Yeah. I'm just laughing so much because I just remember the scene so vividly right now, and it's just hilarious. Yeah.
Oh dear. And then obviously it shows little Gary playing the piano with the money falling down and all of that, and them then dancing to It Only Takes a Minute with Gary a step behind. And once again, it was just, honestly, these little bits that they've added in was just so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Jake even said, even though that he was not at the dance level as the others, he was trained in dance, but he's not a dancer like they are. He said it was actually hard to dance like one beat behind. It was quite difficult to do it in that way. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant scene.
Can imagine.
I think the scenes with all the Take That boys, I think, are my favourite scenes in the film because they're
so well cast.
Yeah, incredible, all of them, just brilliant. Trouble was Gary sung like an angel, but he danced like a twat. So Gary has said that he has watched the film now. I think it was GQ said, "How did you like how you were portrayed?" And he just said, "It was good." That's all Gary said. And then I think Howard said he hasn't watched it yet. He can't bring himself to. He's not ready, but he will watch it. And then Mark has commented that he really enjoyed it, that they should have won more awards, or they should win awards, and that he was really pleased to hear how the Take That actors have become really good friends in real life, and that's pleased Mark to hear that. So that's really sweet.
Yeah.
And it speaks of the relationship between Mark and Robbie that comes off so well in the movie as well.
Yes, it does.
It does.
Yeah, those little moments between them where you see the real friendship is really, really nice.
What did you think, Sarina, when you saw them for the first time in the dance studio?
It was just like, again, like, I wasn't there for the whole Take That era. And for me, it was like, because the film is so immersive, like I felt like, oh yeah, I'm reliving the Take That era now, or I'm able to be in the moment because it's just so authentic. And again, they're so well cast. And even though they, obviously I guess they could have CGI'd them to look even more realistic or more like the actual Take That members. But even though they don't look like them 100%, they have the same vibe to them.
Yeah.
And I just love that.
Yeah, 100%.
Chase did get a chin for Jason.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that in the past. And he gifted it to someone, right?
Yeah.
Jenny.
To Jenny, yeah.
Jenny's got one of the chins, yeah.
What did you take from the set? A chin.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, yeah, it's brilliant.
And then we move on into the Indian restaurant, which Lucy tells me, as a very big Take That fan, that's what they loved doing. They always enjoyed going out for Indian.
They would always go
curry.
out for Indians. And the thing where Nigel says no coriander for the boys is a true fact, that he would not allow them to eat coriander.
So specific.
Yeah, and I don't know why. I tried to look it up.
Bad for your singing voice, or does it smell? Or
there was something about if you smelt it or breathed it in or something, it could be bad for you. But I think eating it was okay. I don't know. I couldn't work out a reason why he wouldn't allow them to eat coriander. But it is true. So it makes me laugh that they've kept little nuggets.
Such a small detail, yeah.
Yeah. And then Nigel obviously creates this backstory for them where he says that Gary and Howard were in a band called the Cutest Rush. But in actual fact, that backstory was that Gary and Mark were in the Cutest Rush, while Jason and Howard were in a breakdancing group together called Street Beats. So they've kind of changed it a bit for the film. But Nigel did make up that Robbie was in Brookside as well. That was made up. But they also made out that Mark was 2 years younger to be the same age as Rob. And it took maybe a year or two until that was found out. And because obviously people who went to school with Mark were going to know how old Mark was. And so it's not going to take long for that to come out. It's crazy.
It just shows the level of manipulation that was going on in those days of the fans, not just of the boy band members, but, I'm just going to make this story up and it's going to be true. Like, why are you allowed to do that? I don't see, it's pure manipulation.
Yeah.
It really is.
And what I absolutely loved was that they included the little moment with them in their little G-strings with the Take That letters on their bums behind.
Yeah.
I had that poster on my wall.
Yeah. There's a moment. I think, and also, this is the pivotal point in the film where, as fans, we all know that Rob always draws a distinction between himself and Robbie. But I think it's a very important part of the film where he says, I fucking hated the name Robbie, but it was the single best thing that Nigel did for me.
Yeah.
And actually, again, anybody that has followed Rob for a long time knows that he had always had this separation between Rob and Robbie. And I think it's an important point in the film because the film does obviously portray him as a kind and sociable person, within the realms of his environment that he was in. But yeah, I think it was an important point to be made because obviously, there is the real Rob and then there's Robbie. And obviously Nigel kind of had a part in creating the Robbie character that Robbie could then hide behind. And as a lot of us as fans know, we've been in chat rooms and been in situations where we've heard Rob talking about being shit scared at certain moments. And sometimes even though we kind of knew about that was going on, it was sometimes hard to imagine, and I think you see moments in the film where it's hard for his dad to imagine.
Yeah.
How can you forget who you are with all those people shouting your name and all that sort of thing? So anyway, I just think that's the point where it's established there are kind of two characters.
Yeah. And we move on to the Le Cage nightclub in Manchester, and I Found Heaven, which is done so well. But Matt, you heard some interesting information about that.
I did. One of our good Russian fans said that actually this scene, the gay club scene, is not included in the Russian edit that was put into cinemas.
Yeah, it was censored.
Oh
my God.
And then there's also a scene coming in a bit that we're going to talk about where Rob's laying on the bed with 3 women, sort of talking about his promiscuity. That was also not in the film. And we didn't have a chance to talk about everything, but it sounds as though it was quite heavily edited and censored. So I think he's looking forward to seeing the actual version at some point.
No drugs.
Yeah, like what'll be left?
I mean, yeah, all you've got is a dancing monkey.
2 frames. 2 frames and then title card, credit.
But obviously we don't know. We don't know what happened in other parts of the world. We know obviously they've got strong censorship there, but maybe it was fiddled about with in other parts of the world as well. We don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting to let people know that. When they're in that van and they're getting out to play their first bit, and Rob is last to get out, and he's like looking really nervous. And I love how Mark checks on him and says, "Are you okay?" I love that.
Yeah.
So
the
real.
small details like that. Yeah. So sweet.
Yeah. And how good is the I Found Heaven scene?
Oh my God.
It's just
amazing.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
I know. Yeah.
Like Jake is so good as Gary in that scene, isn't he? He's just he's Gary.
Yeah, he is.
Absolutely.
Couldn't get over it. His little mannerisms, little moves, facial expressions, it's unbelievable.
Just phenomenal. I mean, and chatting with them on the interview that we did with them, we saw how much work they all put in. They were all perfectionists. They all wanted to get it as close as they put their own spin on it as well, but they all wanted to get it as close as they possibly could. And even Jenny said that they watched so many videos, and they used to WhatsApp each other with all these videos, and they watched as many of those early performances as they could. And well, an unreal performance, really, just incredible.
And it should be noted that when Rob's in the gay club and they're performing, there's no demons, no versions of himself, because he's just really happy in that moment. Everything was good. He found heaven. He was happy.
He'd found his people. He'd found peace. Yeah, that's what he was saying. He was in an environment where he felt comfortable and just was doing the thing.
Yeah.
And he thought it was all going to turn out great, probably at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it? And so I Found Heaven, the song, was produced by Eden Prince, a DJ producer who said on his Instagram, "Such a beautiful experience stepping into the film world for the first time to work on music for the new Robbie Williams movie. Being from Stoke-on-Trent, just like Robbie, made this project feel even more meaningful. Grateful to be part of something so special." How nice is that? They got someone from Stoke to produce that song. I love that.
How many people are there in Stoke?
It's quite a big place.
Okay.
It's big, yeah. Did you want to say anything about I Found Heaven?
I just loved it. It was so electrifying. I think we were all just trying to keep seated because, we all wanted to jump up and dance along, I guess. And like when we watched it in the with all the fans and at the premiere, yeah, just a great scene. So really well choreographed as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
And they really cranked the music up at that point, the volume. So, you get the gay club version, and then they amp it up. They do something with it when
it's the girls.
The girls in the club with the girls.
Yeah.
It sort of goes up a level again. There's something added. I don't know how they do that, but it's so clever. The energy off of it is, incredible.
Yeah. I think I kind of prefer this version of the song to the original. It's a lot less cheesy, and it's just really exciting to listen to. I saw them sing, and the first single that I bought by Take That. So
that's cool.
It's quite nice that it's featured in the film. And then we go into the backstage scene after they've performed for the girls, and how awkward is it with Nigel, the way he speaks to Rob in that moment.
Yeah, so condescending.
Yeah.
How did that feel when you first saw that scene, Sarina?
Yeah, just again, very condescendingly. And I just, again, felt so, I just felt for Robbie so much in that moment. And I just felt as though that was one of the, that scene represented so much from the whole interaction between Nigel and the band, or with Robbie in particular, and the way it shaped his character. So, just felt so sorry for him. And
it's a real contrasting moment, wasn't it? Because they were all high and on the energy of the show and the feedback and everything they'd got, and all happy. And then there's this asshole comment that's got to be made, which just kind of,
it gets to you.
And making him so small, instead of cheering up.
But I really could see Rob in the facial expressions in that scene, 100%. It was Rob, wasn't it? And I absolutely loved Jake's line where he said, "I think Robbie's developing a sense of humour, Nige." It was so Gary. The way he delivered it, I was just my mouth dropped open, I think, in the cinema. I was like, oh my God, he's just Gary. Incredible.
Then it quickly flips into the classroom safe sex talk. Don't you fool, cover his tool. It's just a funny bit because that's true, isn't it?
They did
stuff like that.
They did do a sex talk tour, in schools.
And I think One Direction did that later as well. So it's they did. So it's a reoccurring boy band thing, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, it's good. It's a good message to put out there. I'm sure they weren't necessarily living. Well, they were. They weren't allowed to do anything, were they? Take that voice.
Well, I think they did do stuff, but Nigel wasn't allowed to know.
But it's funny at the end because they pan out and they're all wearing their boy band clothing. You've put sexy clothing here. And then Who is it that pulls open the waistcoat at
Chase.
the end? Yeah.
Or Jason.
Yeah, just pulls the waistcoat in at the end. Really, really inappropriate.
It's so funny. Oh, dear.
And of course,
Brilliant.
the girl is in the class who then Robbie gets together with in the nightclub.
Is that the same girl?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Is it? Am I right, Sarina? Did I get that right? I think it's the same
I
girl.
think it's the same girl. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I hadn't twigged on that. Yeah.
I do think
And
it's
then
the
we
same
go
girl.
to the infamous wanking scene, which was awkward to watch with your parents and my parents and my
Yeah.
mum and our children. And
It was.
Oh no, with your children, yeah.
Look
that could be awkward.
forward, don't look anywhere else, just look at the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom, because I haven't watched it with my parents yet. Because again, like my parents don't speak English, so I
Right.
would have to watch it with them in the dub version, and that's my excuse to not watch it with them. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, I want to watch this film about Robbie Williams with them, but yeah, I might need the Russian censored version for that.
Yeah, I bet that scene's not in it.
Yeah, I bet it isn't.
Mm.
Yeah. It's funny though, because it's a moment of humour, because obviously that girl is connected, I think it is the same one, the girl is connected through the schoolroom into the nightclub and then obviously into the scene that's about to come as well. So I
Yeah.
think it's quite a funny little sort of joke that they've got going on there. Then of course we move into the record label office and yeah.
The way Rob fiddles with the Newton's cradle, the silver balls.
Yeah.
I get this feel. I don't know for a fact. I get this feeling they might have shot that scene quite a lot of times, because their facial expressions in it are so good. Because you've got that whole group of them all facing the guy in the
Yeah.
desk. When he sets the balls off, like Nigel's just like mesmerised by them. He just got it's just staring at them for quite a long time. And today when we were watching, I was just watching his expression. It's just funny
Yeah.
it's such a Robbie thing to do, but and then it's so funny the way the record guy turns around that picture, and then we see the girl, and then we see the reflection of Robbie, and it's like, which one of you is
Gary.
Gary? Yeah.
It's comedic brilliance.
Oh, I would also say that one thing I noticed after watching the film so many times, I think Lucy might have watched it one more time than me, is the use of reflection throughout the film. So and Michael's talked about this on one of the interviews, I think, or someone asked him about it. If you haven't seen it, watch out for all the reflections in the film, because they're everywhere. So that reflection, that piece where he turns the picture around of the girl, and then Robbie's face is shown as a reflection. It's just like one of many reflections shown throughout the film. And Weta said that also caused them a challenge, because obviously not only have they got to CGI the character, they've also got to create the reflection as well. And there's loads of them all the way through. So I think Michael really likes that as a stylistic effect.
Yeah.
Obviously you have reflections in everyday life, but you do see it a lot in this film.
Yeah. It's clever.
Yeah.
So we move on to one of the highlights of the film, Rock
Yes.
DJ.
Oh my God, that scene.
So let me just say before we talk about the scene, it was produced by Juan Aritza, who said, "Most of this tune was produced in airplanes and green rooms all over Australia, New Zealand and Asia, and continued to grow through several months." That's all I got from his Instagram.
Well, he would have been on his laptop creating it, basically.
Yeah. But how good is this new version, though? The brass, the trumpets.
Rich,
it's
isn't
amazing, isn't it?
Love it so much. Yeah. And it's all over like TikTok and Instagram. Like, people are using this as a sound, and kind of like the revival of rock DJ kind of going around as a trend right now, which is so
yeah.
cool.
It is
Even
cool.
like among like younger people, and also people from the US, and I think that's the song that a lot of people have heard of now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
What did you think about this scene before we launch into it, Sarina?
I mean, even though I didn't watch the trailer, I've heard of that scene, and the whole process of shooting it with Regent Street having to shut down entirely, and the whole filming having to be postponed because of the Queen dying and all of that. So I did have high expectations of that scene, but I didn't know what the artistic aim was with that, what they were aiming at. And I loved it that it was just like this highlight reel of different stages of the Take That era or the Take That career. And it's just so genius. Like, I mean, the song is great. The dancing is great. Like this whole thing being shot in like one take, it's amazing. And then I think it's just so full of Easter eggs. Like you can just pause it every second and spot something new. It's so cool. Okay. And I didn't even like spot probably like 10% of it while I was first watching it.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? What do you think, Matt?
Wow, unbelievable. I mean, it's just fantastic. And I have fond memories of it in particular because we knew when it was going to be, we knew it was filming the actual time it filmed, not the time it got cancelled. And so Lucy and I just happened to be in London.
Well, you were in London. You had a meeting, didn't you?
I was in London on that day, yes. And so we had a little wander along Regent Street in the afternoon when it was still open. However, it was already dressed, so shop names had been covered up, brands that weren't allowed to be in it. Shop windows had been changed.
I think they were using some empty shops as well.
Empty shops had been converted into actual fake shops. There were street sellers, stalls on like fake. I remember just seeing this fake hot dog stand, and like when you looked up close, it looked terrible. But then when you see it in the actual thing, it just looks like a hot dog stand. And then there was a souvenir stand. I mean, like all the way around that street, right the way from Piccadilly Circus around where it bends around the corner, there was just stuff all along. Things covered up, things taken down, extra lights, and it's just. So that was even before the crew had like properly moved in and fully set everything up. That was just the dressing of the set.
Oh my God!
So to see Regent Street like that, and then to see how epic it was, and like you say, how they made it look like one shot all the way through. It's just fantastic, extremely Michael Gracie.
Yeah,
really, really good.
Yeah.
I
don't know whether you noticed, but if you watch, basically what I did was I watched it from the YouTube version like 5 or 6 times in a row, and I focused on one member of Take That each time to try and, see what was going on for that character that you might otherwise miss because otherwise you get distracted and you look at something else. But when you watch Robbie, the monkey, and you see the lighting on him, just the clothes, when you really study it, it's absolutely amazing what they did with him CGI wise. It's just outstanding. And then I love all the costume changes, had the Beatles outfits, the white outfits, the British Knights ones, the Back for Good video outfits, and then the hairstyle changes as well, how Gary's hair is like the peroxide blonde, and then they go behind the cardboard cutout and he jumps out and suddenly he's got the brown hair cut, and then in the background on just as they come out of the record shop and go to get on the mobility scooters, there's like an alley in the background on the right, and you can see everything changes. Album cover posters along that alleyway, which it's very hard to spot unless you're really looking. And another thing I noticed was on, when they pan around in the Back for Good outfits towards the television screen where it shows best group, like they're winning an award on all those different TV screens. I paused that and took a photo of it and zoomed in, and basically it's real Take That in that photo in that video. Way. It's the actual footage of real Take That.
There's
and
an
they've just added Robbie as a monkey, changed him into a monkey, but it's definitely real Take That in that. I was like, look, I had to actually dig out an old DVD of that MTV Awards when they won Best Group in 1994, and I watched them collecting their award and paused it at the same moment and took a photo of both. We could share that on our page,
I was just wondering.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, and it's literally it's like they have just used exactly the same footage. Yeah, so little things. That's another little
that's
Easter
the tribute
egg.
to Take That.
Yeah.
It just shows how deep they dug for all of that.
Yeah, it's just amazing. The dance break in the music shop is great, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I love the dance break in particular. There's something special about that. Like the people in there are all so theatrical. Like when they walk in, like they're all like ready to dance and stuff, and they all jump on pianos and the best bit is when Mark or Jesse just goes sliding along the floor. It goes, and then he's just got this cheesy grin on his face.
He's so good.
Just funny. It really is brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love also the bit where they're in the music shop, the record shop, and then they put the headphones on and they do a little like dance,
Yeah,
and the music sort of changes a bit because they're listening to it through headphones. It's just so amazing, the whole scene. I love it.
It is incredible. Obviously, Michael's talked about it a lot. They all have, but it's a lovely thing that they actually did film it in Regent Street, because obviously so much of the film wasn't filmed in the UK, which is fine. But I think it could have been done with CGI, and apparently, I think someone who we spoke to did say they were thinking about creating it in
because of the Queen dying and all that.
somewhere in Europe.
Serbia
or somewhere. They were going to recreate Regent Street, but they decided not to. And I think, you can tell, even though there's a lot of CGI in it, it looks just epic. And it's lovely to walk along that bit and see it, because you can't not now see the dance happening there. Yeah.
And there's just so much of it shown because the camera moves along so much and so many different angles.
What did Jenny say? 500 dancers she had stretched along that street, all trying to, all synchronized. Unbelievable.
I think
really epic.
There was 85,000 gumballs as well.
They were CGI.
No, I know they were CGI, but I'm saying that they CGI'd 85,000.
That's a lot.
Gumballs.
Well, it was quite big, wasn't it? It was like massive, the thing that they came out of.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. It was that big.
Yeah.
Oh dear. So that's like really. Also, you've got to note that there's no demons or visions in that scene as well, because Rob's just really happy.
It's a happy moment. Yeah, it's his. It is definitely his dream, isn't it?
It is
that sequence, because it's all. I think they talked about it as well. It's all according to him.
Yeah, he's like the lead singer in it. Yeah.
It's just from his perspective, basically.
Yeah. So let's move on to what comes next. It's Jan. They're back at Rob's house, and all the fans are outside. And I love that it's like, oh, he's made it now. They're famous. All the fans are outside the house. But he's already not happy, isn't he? He's like, I'm just giving the fans what they want. I go on stage and act like a gladiator and pretend that the whole world is lucky to see me. They don't see what I see. So already the rot is setting in.
Yeah, so we've time shifted forward a bit here, haven't we? Into them, actually being out there doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then we see them in the Take That HQ, the fan mail coming in.
You noticed that the Take That logo is different?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I guess that was copyright.
Oh, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything else in the Take That HQ scene? So when Nigel goes into the area where they're talking about the souvenirs and the collectibles and things, did you notice what was playing in the TV in the background?
Oh, right. Was it the Do What You Like video? Yeah. With the cello. Oh, yeah. I love that they included that.
Yeah, same.
Because, it was such a big part of the last tour for Robbie. So, yeah.
Well, I did joke with the lads when we had them on the interview and said that Robbie does use it in his shows, and then maybe he'll change it to that version.
Oh,
but
or on the 1st of April, he should for April Fools, he should. Yeah. If we had a show on that day,
we need to see the full version. I think of that video.
They spent a couple of days. They spent a day rehearsing and a day filming that scene just for that little bit in the background. Yeah. And he just moves across, and you just see it for about 3-4 seconds, and then. You
didn't notice it the first time?
No, not the first time, because I was looking to the left of the screen. Because I was looking at what he was pointing at, which was all the stuff. Whereas actually behind him, that was playing. I was like, I knew it was in it. It was like, where was it? And you're like, didn't you see it? You zoomed in on their backside straight away.
And that other classic line, Robbie's inside Mark, who's inside Jason, Jason's inside Howard, and they all fit snugly in Gary.
Oh, yeah. The Russian doll thing.
Also, what I found was fascinating is Lucy has obviously got a huge archive of Take That clips, and showed me a picture of the mailroom, the real mailroom that they were in, where they did a little interview, didn't they?
Yeah, it was on the Ozone.
And oh my God, they've got it almost identical.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean,
and it's not like a known scene or scenery, you know. Like so, like you know, why would they? But so cool that they did it.
They dug it out from the archives and they recreated it in the same kind of way. They were sort of sat on the floor with the sacks around and things stuck up on the walls, and
it's a classic scene. It's where Robbie gets a letter and reads it, and he says, leave, what this is to me, it says, leave, take that, because they're trying to pull it off him, so to read it, and he's like pulling it, not letting them read it, and he's going, leave, take that, you're the best, if you leave you'll be bigger than George Michael, or he says something like that, and they're going, it doesn't say that, give it here. It's brilliant. But so it's a little nod to real moments like that I love that they included. So cool. Yeah. That scene obviously goes a bit like not so nice feeling when Gary sits down and they're talking about Rob's lyrics.
Oh, it's evil. It's an evil comment, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is it? Well, you think you can just turn up, scribble some worthless shit and get your name next to mine in the song? You had nothing to this, any of it.
Yeah.
And Jake plays it so well because he's not smiling and he's not angry. He's kind of sort of passive aggressive somewhere in between, and the look on his face, he's almost got this slight smirk on his face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's so evil. And it's like, oh, that's not nice.
Yeah. But little Mark is like, all right, Gaz.
Yeah, trying to calm the whole situation a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah. And, I mean, has Gary even read the lyrics at that point? Because, like, you know, he's being, like, harsh about the lyrics, even though he hasn't even read them, I feel like.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, he hasn't read them because Rob hasn't let him read them.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're right. That's a completely unfair comment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this scene is another defining point in the film because, yes, it's funny because you see that Take That merchandise and the dolls and, you know, do what you like and everything. So there's moments of fun in it, and then you kind of see them in the mailroom, and then there's that horrible comment. But it starts to show that the cracks are appearing with Rob, you know, like when he says...
Starts to crumble,
You think Oasis do this shit? You know, we need to branch out. We need to write something that's not so fucking cringeworthy. You know, he's beginning to... You're sort of beginning to see the signs that he's not altogether happy. Mm-hmm. But it's sort of all done in a dressed up sort of happy way, apart from Gary's sort of evil comment. You sort of think, something's not quite right here.
Yeah. But they did say that they changed the script because Gary wasn't happy with the initial
because
script.
He came off like Darth Vader, worse than Darth Vader.
Yeah. I wonder what it was like before.
Yeah, right. Too.
But I don't think Gary comes off too badly, really, because it's only stuff that he would admit to having been like now.
Yeah. And also I feel like he comes across like a puppet of Nigel. Somebody who's like a tool for Nigel. So it's not like his own thoughts or his own actions, actually.
Yeah.
And he already had the songbook, didn't he? I mean, he had lots of songs already written, not, you know, Gary, not Robbie. Robbie obviously had some, but like you said, no one had seen them. But Gary just basically had the books of these songs ready to go. And he was told that was his job.
Yeah.
You can imagine what it was like.
We move on to Relight My Fire, when Rob can't quite be in time with the music. You can really, like, there's one thing that really hit me with this scene was Rob's breathing when it's silent in the room, and because they've cut him off from what they're saying in the whatever that bit of the room is called. And you can just hear him breathing, and then he holds his breath, doesn't he? And then when they start speaking to him again, he suddenly lets go of his breath, and it's really emotional.
Yeah, and they really worked with the natural qualities of this recording booth because it is supposed to be really silent and you're supposed to only hear that person's voice. But they used it for the breathing, for the heavy processing part. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a testament to the sound in this film as well, because obviously sound is incredible throughout, but the way in which they engineer the sound, the effects like that they're all part of the film. They all make it, don't they?
Yeah. Obviously Rob was actually asked to sing Relight My Fire in real life, and then they chose to get Gary to sing it instead. So I guess that scene is based on some form of reality. And we move on to the hotel room with Pete. And that's when he says, it's all a bit overwhelming, Dad. It's like, I can't keep track of who I am anymore. And Pete says, how can you not know who you are when there are thousands of people screaming your name? That seems kind of weird, isn't it, with that girl?
It's a bit weird.
Oh my God, yeah.
What did you think of that?
It's super weird, yeah. And like, I feel like, I mean, obviously that's not based on a true story, I hope, at least, because I mean, how weird would it be if Pete got some fan of Robbie's into the hotel room because he made an agreement for him to meet her. But I feel like it's a good metaphor, or like not metaphor, but like a good like just image of his relationship with Pete at that point, because just Pete just sees him in him this brand and not the person that Betty is the one that she sees in him. So I think it's a great scene to just further the relationship between Pete and Robbie.
Yeah,
I think you're right, because obviously Rob's not talked a lot about his actual relationship with his dad, certainly to us as fans, and obviously he's been really open about most things in his life, right? All of what's happened. He protects his family members, I think, so he doesn't often talk in detail about them, but he's never really talked much about his early relationship with Pete. So we don't know how much of it is true, is based on truth, is fictionalized. It's difficult to know. But I was saying to Lucy earlier on, the one thing that I think probably is almost certain is that Pete had a very strong showbiz work ethic. And although he was working at a different level, he truly believed in giving the people what they want and, working hard. And I said to Lucy, at that point where Rob was having doubts, I reckon that his view was probably, why would you not keep a good thing going?
Yeah.
And that is, for someone who's on the outside, that's probably easy to say, because it's like, God, you've got all this money and all this fame and everything's going right and you couldn't be any higher. Why fuck it up? Yeah. Whereas Rob knew it had to be broken up at some point. I think this is where the cracks are really beginning to start to show.
Yeah, I still think that Pete has a very technical way of looking at like careers in the music industry, like it's established in this earlier scene at the club where or this hotel where they are, and he's like, oh yeah, they have to put the light on those people, and look, like you see this person, like he's lost that table on stage, and he has not a very, like in the movie, a very emotional way of being of looking at somebody's career, but more like numbers, facts, and the technicalities, more or less.
Yeah, exactly. So a bit of an odd scene, sort of a linking scene, but important, like you say, to develop the relationship with his dad further. And then we move on to Relight My Fire in concert.
Obviously starting with Rob collapsed, and this reminded me of the story about how they were at the MTV Europe Music Awards, probably the one where it's the scene in the TV screen, I think that's the last one he did with them, 1994. Where they couldn't wake him up like an hour before they were to go on stage or something. And then Nigel got Prince's doctor to give Rob an injection of, I don't know what, adrenaline or something, I'm not sure, to wake him up. And because I don't think there's any instance of Rob ever actually being collapsed on stage at Take That concert. I don't think that ever happened. But I guess it was close, and that's how it felt. And so that's why they kind of dramatised it in that way.
He went on stage drunk a lot of times.
Oh yeah, it's definitely drunk, but I don't think he ever actually collapsed on stage. Not when he was in Take That, anyway. And then it's horrible, isn't it, when Nigel was like leaning over him and saying all the really nasty stuff. Yeah. Couldn't sing, couldn't dance, looks 5 at best, everything you have, everything I've given you, and you don't deserve any of it. Do you think he really said stuff like that to Rob? I guess he did.
I do think he did, actually. I mean, I remember the post Robbie made a couple of weeks ago, the open letter to Nigel. And I feel like if it wasn't as bad as it was portrayed in the film, like why would he feel the need to write this kind of letter, or like, what he expressed there? I do think it was that bad, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's classic narcissistic behaviour, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
And Relight My Fire was produced by Freddie Scott, who said on his Instagram, "From blasting your music when I was an intern at a pop radio station in college to being a part of the soundtrack to your biopic, thank you always for the inspiration." I hadn't actually realised until I was watching this the other night that the lyrics to Relight My Fire were actually so poignant to this moment in the film. Just never occurred to me. "Help me escape this feeling of insecurity. I need you so much, but I don't think you really need me." And those are the opening lines to Relight My Fire. So that makes perfect sense as to why they actually used that song in that moment.
Yeah, why he was recording those lines also in the recording booth earlier.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I've never really thought about the lyrics to Relight My Fire. It's just one of those songs where it's just like you just bop along to it.
But I mean, it's not an original, so,
No,
like, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, totally fits.
Absolutely.
On that point, that it's not an original, isn't it weird that there's no songs written by Gary that have been included in this? What is that about?
I wonder.
Is it that Gary didn't want them used, or is it that they didn't want to use them, or did they just not fit the moments and that they chose the songs based on the lyrics, like Michael said? I don't know.
That's
but
a good question, actually.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's not stoke that fire.
Well, it has to be said. But what's your favourite moment of the Relight My Fire scene, Matt?
I think it's when Jason says to him, "You're making us all look like fucking idiots," and then he runs off in like this stringy trousers, which are showing his bum, looking like an idiot. And I just love that. It's like they all look like total idiots, and I just love I just love that moment. Yeah, brilliant.
Isn't it nice that a lot of fans actually got to be in the filming of that? And,
oh my god!
Like Georgie, who was on our one of the Under the Radars, I think, episodes. She was right there in the front row because she managed to become one of the extras.
Oh, no way.
Because they had to be under a certain age to be an extra. She managed to get in, so she was right there, right in the middle, loving it.
That's cool.
And like Angie and Jocelyn and
Angie,
other people managed to be there. So how exciting! And they said that they did actually see all of that when they were filming. It's not like they shot some of it behind closed doors, like him being collapsed and stuff. They saw him lying down and getting himself up and everything. It wasn't like they tried to hide that from the crowd. They filmed it really like that. So that was interesting.
I just imagine being in the audience and trying to put all the puzzle pieces together. Like, how is that going to fit into the movie later on? Like, where is that going to happen? Like, what part is that? And but they've done it really well. The outfits are so genuine to the 1994 tour that they did, and it's just perfect. Really, really well done. And obviously, I love how Rob grabs the microphone off Gary and
he does.
Steals the show at one point.
I want to dance. I want to sing. Right? I can sing. I can dance while I'm stood at the back.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think Jake and the boys, they were telling us a story about, was it Relight or was it Could Be Magic? I can't remember.
Relight.
Relight. They said that the actual cut that got used was the one where Michael said, "Right, just forget about everything. Just go for it. Just go for it. Be yourselves. Have a laugh." And apparently that was the cut that was used because they were just completely relaxed and they went for it. They did all their routines and everything, but they said they didn't think that would be the one that would be in the film. They thought it was the one that was for fun. Like the last cut is normally, what was he saying? The last shot they take is normally
the one. Yeah.
And that was the one.
Yeah.
So.
The psychology behind, like, choreographing, directing, all of that. So interesting.
Yeah. And we move on to Gary's house, his mansion, and Rob driving to his house.
It's also very interesting that that we went for that.
So for all the people learning about Rob that are listening to this podcast that maybe don't know, well, we've probably mentioned it before on the podcast, Rob can't drive. Rob's never driven. Not legally anyway, and has no interest in driving. I think he said this before.
Well, yeah, because he basically would he have learned? He was 16 when he joined Take That.
Yeah.
Never had time.
Never had the time to even
or inclination
learn to drive a car.
And now, why would he? He's got a chauffeur that drives him everywhere.
But yeah, it wouldn't have looked the same if somebody else was driving Rob in the car.
What's the legal driving age in the UK?
17.
17. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is a bit annoying in the film that he's driving, but artistically we can.
Yeah,
it
makes for a great scene. Yeah,
it does. It works.
And it's just like, when did he learn? Bloody 15 at the beginning, and now he's driving a car. What's going on? No, she didn't say that. I just imagine
for
it
the
in her
Americans.
So the bit where he grabs the watermelon.
The watermelon. I carried a watermelon. I was just thinking of Dirty Dancing.
Oh yeah.
I
wasn't sure whether it was a pineapple originally, but yeah, he says it was a watermelon.
I think he's always said it was a
Why did they
watermelon.
go for the melon? So it was an actual, like, is that fact that he carved
he
something
asked
into?
to. He did actually ask to. They did have a fruit
that.
table of refreshments, and he did actually ask to take them.
He did
I think it
actually
was a
do that.
watermelon.
Yeah.
He actually asked it. So that line where, can I take this or can I have this? He actually did say that to them. And
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Because I think when he was interviewed about it, he was like, he didn't know what else to say.
Yeah.
And it was so awkward that he thought he had to say something. And he just said, can I have this?
When life gives you watermelons.
Yeah. Yeah, so he just tried to, because the
Typical
atmosphere was so tense, because they'd basically just asked him to leave.
And he could tell they were feeling really uncomfortable and
Yeah.
upset about it as well, I think.
So he deflected it with comedy, as he always does. But obviously, in real life, it was Jason who delivered the fatal line to Rob, not Howard.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an emotional scene. Wasn't it really clever how they had him on the swing?
To portray him as like the child of the band and, the immature one. Yeah.
Yeah, devastating. So then he goes and gets in his car and he puts the seatbelt on the watermelon, but he doesn't put the seatbelt on himself.
Yeah.
Did anyone else notice the GB on the top of the gates?
For Gary Butler. Yeah.
No, that's something you hadn't
Well
spotted.
noticed.
Yeah. And then would you like to say...
I was looking at what was through the gates. The bit where he gets in the car and speeds off down the drive, all pissed off and angry, I think it just, it's another moment in the film that really works. And the fact that you get Come Undone, which is just an epic song, one of my favourites, not the favourite, but one of them. And then when he goes driving towards the gates, which I didn't see a GB on, obviously, he gets boobs flashed at him, and then another set, so there's a couple of girls out there, all the screaming fans are outside, and then he just breaks through those gates and off he goes. And as we found out, everything beyond that piece and him driving is a digital CGI setup, which is incredible because obviously it's quite surrealistic, but it's also very real in points as well, because the car is speeding along the road and Jono's in it singing along. And again, the film gets you because you don't know, you just think, well, he's all pissed off, he's singing Come Undone, he's in the car, he's going to go and do something stupid, obviously something stupid's going to happen. But then the film just gets you again because you don't know that he's going to see the Wembley vision.
Yeah.
His dad on the Wembley bus, the bus to Wembley. You think he's going to crash, and then suddenly he goes into some weird dreamscape on top of dreamscape.
Yeah, it's Inception.
And then that happens. You're like, oh. So then they're layering on the fact of his previous trauma, I guess, other shit and crap that's happened in his life. They're trying to lay it on very thick at that point, I guess heading towards breakdown, which unfortunately is what happened. So, wow, what a scene.
Yeah, what did you think, Sarina?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting that they put such a heavy emphasis on the driving because he can't actually drive. So, but it's just the speeding of the car, basically him driving into this. He ends up driving into the water, and I think like, you know, the feeling that you get when you're driving at night, or, you know, especially at night, I feel like on the highway and there's nobody there, or there are a lot of people there, and, you know, accidents can happen at any time. And it just puts an emphasis on how close he was to actually crashing, you know, because there were risks everywhere and an accident could happen at any time. And this rush of driving just really, it just really worked, in my opinion.
Yeah, it did. And it was such a shock in the cinema when, you know, you were thinking, God, he's going to crash. And then he does crash, but it's into a wall of water, and then it's like underwater. You're like, what the hell is going on? But it really hits you emotionally with that, you know, and the music stops as well. I come on, and then it just stops and he's under the water. And then those spooky fans start appearing.
The mermaids or something,
But
I think they are. I think they're like mermaid sirens that are coming to, you know, lure him.
But they're like, they're basically upset fans, aren't they, that he's left, like going, Robbie, don't leave. And in the cinema, the first time we watched it, that moment really got me. I started crying at that point. Oh God, it was just really powerful.
Yeah, and I also love the dualism of the mermaid screaming, like, we need you, Robbie, don't go. Like, on the one hand, don't leave, take that. But on the other hand, don't leave this world, like, stay with us.
Yes.
So,
And then the photographers all start appearing and just like capturing his pain almost, aren't they? Like trying to just photograph his pain, not caring that he's mentally ill, basically. And they're just carrying on trying to photograph him.
Basically captures in a very surreal way what actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of that lost year when the photographers were just after him all the time. And
basically like Diana, like, you know.
And then, of course, he seals it by saying the cheeky member of Take That is now the fucked up, messy one who's gone and broken up the band, and people hate me for it. But really, they're only saying what I think about myself. I have a raging cocaine habit. I'm a full-blown alcoholic, and I'm only 21. And did they get his age right?
Yes, so they actually got his age right. He was 21. So it's a bit weird with the older ages, but he was 21 then.
But I think that for people that don't know him and what's about to come next in the film, that just makes it very clear. Complete breakdown, addiction, you know, alcoholic, off the rails. That's not a good point at all. You know, obviously at any age, but he's only 21 and he's about to completely screw with his life. So that kind of sets us up for what's about to come. You know?
Yeah. And just on Come Undone, the song, that was produced by Jason Hill, a TV and film music composer, who's also worked with people like The Killers and David Bowie, with additional production by Derek Cobbs and Avenue Beats. I think that it was Adam singing on the cinema version, but maybe Robbie on the soundtrack. Or is it a mix of the two throughout? It's very hard to tell with that song in particular.
It's one of those songs where it's mixed, I think,
Yeah.
But I love the new arrangements so much.
Yeah. Amazing, isn't it? And then how that scene ends with him in the water, and it's like the water rippling, and then that goes into the water rippling around the boats.
Oh.
It was so clever.
Yeah.
Well, because you go from a horrific scene to a beautiful, incredibly beautiful scene, don't you? So the contrast is massive.
Yeah. So they're on a boat in Saint-Tropez, apparently, and Rob meets Nicole. In actual fact, he met her in December 1997 at Top of the Pops during when Angels had already been released. It was when Angels was out, I think, that he met her. But they've brought it forward and she changed the timelines again. But that line there.
Yeah, Lucy wants me to say the next line. Well, then they're talking about All Saints, and he goes, yeah, their manager was a cunt too. She was absolutely lovely, with the single worst taste in men. But yeah, and it's true, they had a difficult manager as well, by the sense of it.
Yeah.
So they bonded over that, probably,
Yeah. And the single worst taste in men, as she went from Rob onto Liam Gallagher.
Doesn't Rob later say that like when you're famous, you can even the ugly ones can get laid or something?
Yeah. And then when I love how Nicole says the whole fame is like a birthday cake when they bring the birthday cake out, because obviously that's a very Rob line there. Non-Robbie fans watching that would never know that that's something that he's
I reckon
said. I do wonder why they made Nicole British and not Canadian. I guess because they thought it would be too confusing for American audiences to understand that she was Canadian.
Probably. Would have made for accuracy, but probably wouldn't have changed the narrative, right? So
No.
I think they just went for the easiest, simplest solution then. Yeah.
And obviously he starts singing She's the One to her. Then they're talking about how he's going to write his own music and he's going to become this megastar. And she's like, you just got to write one good song. And so what does he do? He starts singing a cover.
Yeah, I was talking about that with my friends, and because like She's the One, like Robbie gets associated with that song so much, and it's not even his own song. But like my friend suggested that it might still be like connected to Nicole in a way that he just dedicated it to her in a way.
I'd say.
Yeah.
I reckon that's it, that he really associates that song with Nicole anyway in real life. I reckon that's it. And so She's the One was produced by Dan Romer again, who was the one who did Feel, and it was sung by Rob, Adam and Kaylee McKnight. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's such a stunning arrangement. I love how they've made it into a duet.
It's amazing. It works so well.
It really works, and the arrangement is stunning. And then I think the other thing is, I think I said this when we were talking to Jenny, the way that they are able to tell a story, so many parts of a story through one song, multiple scenes, but all part of one scene really, it's just fantastic. It's just, and it makes you feel so like emotionally connected to it and happy and then so sad all at the same time in such a short space of time. It really messes with your head.
Yeah.
It really does, because it's like, oh my God, hang on a minute, they're so happy. Oh no, now they're terminating the baby, and oh my God. And then they're back on that beautiful boat scene again, and it's like, what did that film just do to us there? But it is a true story that actually was what happened. And I think they probably bonded, like you said, quite a lot through their shared experiences of being sort of controlled and manipulated, and then something amazing happened, and then that was didn't happen, and it was they really it's many stunning scenes in this film, but there's something really special about that one. Just everything, the lighting, the CGI, the dancing is incredible, the music's incredible. There's just something, they spent a long time on that scene.
The transitions are amazing, aren't they, in between everything, like that one where they go kind of, they're lying on the stairs and they go up the stairs, and then it gets to the top of the stairs, and then it's them sat by the bed in the flat all sad. It's just the attention to detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like these emotions that you described, like the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, to reference the 25 tour again. I think that was exactly what Robbie was feeling at that time as well. Like, I'm living the dream. Like, I just got out of Take That, and I'm going to start my own career now. I'm going to go solo, and I have these great songs in the pipeline, and etc. But at the same time, feeling so lost personally. Obviously also in his career, because he only had to start out, but I think it really portrays the dualism of that time period in his life.
Yeah.
It cuts to them at the MTV Awards, and then they're drinking shots in the End nightclub. And what I love is that they're wearing real outfits that they wore, like in the nightclub scene. If you look it up, there's actual photos of Rob and Nicole wearing that outfit. And the candles and the engagement scene. I'm pretty sure, didn't he propose to her over the phone? Isn't that what we saw on the Netflix documentary?
I think so, yeah. I think that's the official version of it.
Yeah.
So romantic.
Yes, the fictional Robbie went to a lot more effort. Yes.
And then we move on to the private members club when Nicole gets her number one. And Nate's there. I love his line about that he's snuck a look at Bono.
Right.
Tiny.
How cool is Rob with his being completely dyed blonde?
Yeah. And it just, it doesn't look weird on the monkey. It's amazing how it doesn't look weird. Like it's a bleached monkey.
Well, didn't you tell me that even his hands?
Yeah, his whole body has been bleached.
All of the hair,
Yeah.
Because the CGI people were like, well, if you were going to like bleach your hair, like, would you just stop there or would you just keep going? And this is Robbie, so he's just going to keep going.
Right, yeah. He goes in completely, yeah.
So Never Ever hit number one on the 11th of January 1998, while Angels was number 6 the same week and had previously been number 5. Angels later went up to number 4 in the February. And Rob actually spent time with Oasis in 1995 to 1996 in his lost year, and he'd fallen out with them by 1997 when Angels was happening and he was with Nicole. So they have quite messed up the timelines here, but it makes sense in the film.
It does, yeah.
It does. I think Chris Gunn, who plays Noel, and Leo Harvey Elledge, who plays Liam, are brilliant in it. I mean, okay, they're only really in it for a little bit, but the swagger and the kind of the coolness, their way of being is it's just how you would have expected it when you imagine them being in a room playing pool, something like that. You imagine it to be like that kind of encounter. You don't. Yeah, I just didn't imagine it to be anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just And then they obviously take him with them, which is sort of an unexpected turn.
Yeah.
And off he goes.
Liam saying, you want a number one, you should have stayed Gary's backup dancer.
Yeah.
I mean, really, they're basically saying the fat dancer from Take That, aren't they? That's a throwback to that line. What about the throwback to the Brits 2000 with him?
Yeah, the acceptance speech.
They fight. Oh dear. It's funny that they included that.
It's so specific, but I do think it's such an iconic moment in his career. Like,
yeah. But I'm still surprised that they included it.
Right, yeah. It is very provocative, yeah. Luckily, what does he say? Luckily he wasn't in the country at that time.
Yeah. I'm guessing that Noel wasn't at that award ceremony, otherwise he probably wouldn't have said it.
Yeah.
If he was like eyeballing him in the room. Can you imagine?
Oh my God.
Back in obviously, I think we would have watched that. I definitely watched that, Brits. And back in the day, I think we've talked about this in the podcast before, the Brits were outrageous. And they were just outrageous. I mean, most Brits, there'd be some form of fight, you know, even if it wasn't like filmed on air, there would be something going on, someone beating each other up in the toilets or whatever, some gossip going on. And then people just used to do ridiculous stuff on stage, like running on stage and trying to boycott other acts. And it was really bad. So for Robbie to say that, it wasn't sort of completely unexpected, but my God, did the press have a field day after that? That was it. I mean, he knew what he was doing. That well and truly put him on the front covers of a lot of newspapers and the lead story, and suddenly the Brit, anybody else that won a Brit that year didn't really get talked about much. It was like Robbie wants to fight Liam. Okay.
Some other singers won some Brit Awards, but Robbie wants to fight Liam.
That was it.
And then, we move on to the awkward scene in Nicole's flat where Rob comes home and opens the fridge to some red velvet cake and then goes and sits with Nicole. Rob has said that that's the one scene that he finds uncomfortable to watch, but at least it's good to know that they're good on good terms now. And, you know, she was supportive of the film and a part of it, so approved the script and everything. So,
yeah.
I think that was important to him as well.
Yeah. But it was awkward to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And another fact was that Oasis actually knocked Never Ever off the number one spot. Because Rob says at least they know how to write a proper number one.
I mean, I have to say, I don't really like the song either. So,
Never ever.
yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, massive back in the day when it came out, wasn't it? You heard it just everywhere.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
They go on back to his mum's house, and you're back with Nan and his mum, and that is that really emotional moment where his Nan basically lets slip that Pete, she told Pete to get in touch with Rob again, and she says, "My mind is all jumbled," and then Rob's like, it's all right, Nan, it's all right, Nan. And I feel like that's like the first person we've seen him really put before himself in the film, because he just loves her unconditionally and she can do no wrong. And that's really emotional. We go on next to Guy's flat. Guy's played by Tom Budge, and we open with Adam Tucker basically spitting bars, which is what it was called in the credits. So I'm guessing this is that little verse that he sings is what Rob's called it. It says it's written by Robbie. And we get that really weird flash forward where
I really like the line in this part where Robbie says, Guy Chambers, Guy likes it when I talk about the holidays we shared. And I like it when he agrees to let me sing our songs. So our lawyers had a chat, and here we are on a beach. I've speculated about that with Lucy for a while, and we wonder. Guy obviously likes the story. Many fans will know when they first started recording together, they went to Jamaica, wasn't it? Yeah. And in one of the documentaries, there's some footage of them together, and there's the story about them smoking a big bag of weed and all that. Guy loves that story, and I do wonder whether whether it's just a joke between him and Rob, or whether he wanted actually them to talk about the holidays. You know, why didn't they show when they recorded on a beach and in the beach house and all that sort of thing? But obviously they didn't, and Robbie just wanted to use the songs. So I'm wondering whether that was a bit of a pointed comment, but it's a funny moment.
It's definitely a pointed comment somehow, isn't it? There's something going on there.
Yeah, I also think so. I mean, Guy's role in that movie is not huge, but the fact that they included that has to mean something. So yeah.
There's definitely something going on there.
When we interviewed Guy, he did say to us that he'd read the script or been told about his character, and that they were trying to portray him as some sort of pompous public schoolboy. And actually, looking at the performance from Tom, I don't think he completely does come across like that. So maybe it was intended that he would be a bit more toffee-nosed. I don't know. But Guy didn't like it initially, but certainly the way he was portrayed I thought was quite normal.
Yeah, I thought it was as well.
Yeah, completely unproblematic, actually.
Yeah. I really like the scene where they're writing together. I felt like it really portrayed how Rob and Guy do write, because Rob does often just sing some stuff and then Guy will make up the actual instrumentation behind what Rob's come up with. So I did like how they portrayed that.
Yeah, because when we went to see Guy's one-man show, and I'm sure he still does it in his one-man show, he talked about that technique.
Yeah.
Of how they would do that together, just basically jamming together and working it out. And
it's the symbiosis of the two, I think.
Yeah.
That really comes across very well in that scene.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
And then in the film, I think it's Adam basically singing it in the film, whereas on the soundtrack version, it's Rob, which is nice to have completely Rob singing this really lovely version of Something Beautiful. It says it was arranged and produced by London-based music producer Chris Reed, who said he was very proud of the contributions I made as a part of a huge creative feat of practical imagination. And he also did some arranging work for Come Undone, Better Man and She's the One for the soundtrack. Rob has said that he's probably going to sing Something Beautiful on tour, which is nice because that'll be the first time he's ever included it on a set list. He's sung it a handful of times in 2003, but back in 2003, when he asked why he wasn't including it on the kind of Nebworth tour set list, he said, this was in Feel book, I think, "It's the next single, but so fucking what? Just fuck it off. And then when they walk off, they'll be, where was that? And I'll be at the hotel. Because to tell the truth, there's a few songs here every night I'm going to be a bit, I hate this one about, I can do a few of them. So he scrapped Something Beautiful and Sexed Up and put Kids back in. So that was back in 2003. So 22 years later, we're finally, hopefully, going to have Something Beautiful on the set list. But will it be this new version or like the more like the original version, which is a bit kind of poppier? I wonder, it'll be interesting to see.
It depends, I think, on the ballad choices. Like, you know, if they have more like, I don't know if he does an advertising space again, which I would love, absolutely, to hear that again. And other ballads, you know, maybe it's just the pop version of something beautiful, which I think is the better choice for a live version.
Yeah,
but
I would say so.
I do love like the new version a lot.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the rap part. Sorry. I also love the rap part, like, you know, that he goes into it rapping.
Yes.
So like the little nod to Robbie's love for rap in a way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is a nod to that. You're right.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you weren't a fan, you probably wouldn't know his relationship with rap and how much he loves it. And how he's experimented with it over the years and kind of had fun with it with us and at shows and things. So, yeah, anybody that hasn't heard or experienced that, Rob does love. It's tongue in cheek a lot of the time, isn't it? He's trying, you know, he's kind of he's doing it in a very light sort of way. But
Yeah.
I think he does really. I think he'd love to release a rap album other than Rude Box.
Oh, I'd love to have a Rude Box 2.0. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So we did ask him. So then we find ourselves in the radio station. And this is where we get our first introduction to Chris Briggs, who we have also had on the show, played by Anthony Hayes. We've had Chris Briggs on the show, not Anthony Hayes. And that episode has actually gained a lot more listens since the film came out because it's probably a person that not many people know about, or, you know, if you're a real hardcore fan, you probably do. But he has been instrumental right the way through Rob's solo career.
Yeah.
And he was a fantastic person to interview. And if you haven't listened to the Chris Briggs interview, go and listen to it. Because I don't think we've talked about it enough, actually, but there are loads of little facts and stories in there which have not been told anywhere else about the time, the industry, how they made decisions on the albums, the track listings, the bust-ups they had within the record company. There's loads and loads. In fact, he told so many stories. Didn't we have to split it into 2 episodes?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we had to split it into 2 episodes. And we didn't want to edit it because there's so much interesting stuff in there. So listen to the Chris Briggs episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the plug over for that episode. We found ourselves in the radio station. What did you think about the radio station scene, Sarina, where they were kind of like almost hiding in a cupboard to go on, weren't they?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's just the confinement of the room kind of is so comedic in that scene. And that is just so Robbie. Like the humor and the sarcasm of it all is just very, very very, very Robbie. And yeah.
And then he goes out and dances and he does that flower behind the ear trick that the guy in the holiday park had done earlier that him and his dad were watching.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Haven't even noticed that.
Yeah.
But it's like the reference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, when I was rewatching it today, I think I find that scene really awkward. It's like really awkward to watch because it's radio and it's sort of a bit bland. There's just people sat in a room and like he's expected to entertain, and obviously he does. He sits on people's laps and does the flower thing and does all that stuff, but none of that happens on. You can't see that on radio. There was no streaming back then. You wouldn't have been able to see that performance in any way. If he did, and we know. I think the thing is, he did do stuff like that. I know it's a fictionalization of it, but I found it awkward because it was like, ooh, this is a bit. And then obviously he goes to the mixing desk window, and then he starts to see his demons in that window, doesn't he? So yeah.
And obviously we get Land of 1,000 Dances, and it flashes forward, doesn't it, to basically build up his career like we did with She's the One and Rock DJ. You're kind of showing the growth of his career through the Land of Dances song. But can I say it now that we don't need Land of Dancers on the next tour?
Yes.
Am I allowed to say that?
Like, I agree. I second that.
Like,
I do.
I'd rather have an original Robbie song instead.
That's
like,
my point.
it's a slot. I mean, when he does the Oasis bit, it's great because it's just an amazing song, and you know, like, it's okay that it's not Robbie original. But Land of a Thousand Dances, like, I don't know. We could trade it for a cool Robbie song.
We need a fresh set.
So what I've written down here is that we don't need any covers. He's got his own millions of songs. We can just cut all the covers, apart from She's the One, I guess. And he could, instead of Land of a Thousand Dances, we could have Hot Fudge or Karma Killer, Old Before I Die, Tripping, Bodies, Not Like the Others, or even better, Raver or No Fucks, which I know he'd never do in a stadium, but it would be amazing. But all of those songs have got such a good energy that you could just
Hot Fudge, I mean, I think he'd do that. He'd done that before, so yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's a little plea. We don't need Land of a Thousand Dances. Just because it's been in the film, it doesn't mean that we have to have it on this set list again, because he's included it since Vegas. He's done it at Vegas, Hyde Park, the 25 tour, and he even did it at the Christmas shows. Like, there hasn't been a show that he hasn't sung that song since 2019, I think. And so I think we're okay to leave it out now.
The audience will be okay without it, Robbie and team. If you're listening, we will be okay, even the ones that aren't hardcore fans like us. As Lisa said, you got plenty more to replace it with.
Yeah, and I mean, I wonder, because, like, I think the audience goes a bit silent during that song, to be honest, because they're all confused, like, you know, all the casual Robbie fans in the seats, they're like, what is that song? I don't know that one. Like, why is he doing that?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my little plea, so...
Well, we then, you know, that then melds into a really pivotal part of the film, which, as you've mentioned it already, but is the montage. Mm-hmm. I mean, my goodness me, I felt as I was being slapped around the face when this started, because it was like boom, 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 bang, bang, bang. Again, very, very incredible production from Michael and the team. The way that it was put together must have taken such a long time to do that arrangement. But again, they pack so much into that story. So for those that didn't know Robbie's sort of incredible rise to fame as a solo artist, then that montage really just shows it, doesn't it? But it shows all the
negatives.
Negative, basically, how it drained him and fucked him over, really, you know. So he was just going out night after night, cocaine and alcohol fueled, and, you know, just but it also shows how his friends and his family supported him. There were people around him,
like Nate,
picking him back up again and getting him back on. I think as fans we can empathise with the fact there are like thousands of stories woven into that whole montage. It does something to you. Did you find that?
Yeah,
is it really hard hitting?
Yeah, I was going to say it's a highlight reel of, like, you know, his downfall with drug and alcohol addiction, but, you know, it's not really highlights, obviously. It's low lights. It's like a pass through. This pass through is just the culmination. I think it basically is the culmination of that narrative, that alcohol drug addict narrative that the film tries to single out as the one defining narrative you can get from Robbie Williams as like an inspiration from his life, you know, as like a narrative.
Yeah.
So that's an incredible part of the film. So important too, but really hard to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it kind of includes that line, I've got me platinum disc and then I'm getting a double platinum disc now. It means I'm very famous.
Yeah. Very, very.
And I was watching back the Parkinson interviews, because obviously they included those, and he actually did say those words on Parkinson, those exact words. So yeah, it's just all these little bits that they've included are so clever.
The Tom Jones performance as well, like with the leather outfits.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Doesn't John though do that amazingly?
Amazing, yes.
The dance moves.
And the monkey and the leather, it's just, I don't know, it's just It's such a weird thing to look at, but it works again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I remember when we actually watched that live, I mean, he actually outshone Tom Jones. That's not very easy to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
his dancing, he was just...
Off his head.
Well, he was off his head, but, you know, it provided the most electric performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they conveyed it really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're backstage, and then Pete says, "No one buys a ticket to hear your problems, son. You know why these people are gods, because they make other people's problems go away." You said that earlier, didn't you?
Yeah.
That actually he does like to tell us his problems now.
Yeah, I mean, he's made a career out of it. You know, but you know, that's where it's an interesting line, because they talk about you write what you know, whether you're a writer, a singer, that, you know, and Robbie has, and he's told everybody all of his pain throughout his whole life, and it's made him successful. Yeah.
I absolutely love that they showed him sitting on Parky's lap.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't really sit on his lap. He just went and stood
He
behind him.
went around the back of him, but he put his head right there, didn't he, next to his head.
But it's funny that.
But that's what he wanted to do, I bet.
Yeah. Definitely. It's really sad, isn't it, how it shows the sad moments then, though, like it cuts to his nan and his mum being alone at Christmas, and you know, all those things. So he's cutting himself off from his family, and at the same time just completely drug addled.
And the phone ringing constantly, and I'm not picking up.
Yeah. And also on the Parkinson interview, the way Jono sits and the way he like fiddles with his ear and everything is exactly how Rob did it on that interview. It's just
the nervousness,
the whole mannerisms
the
are so on.
Yeah, he's so good at it.
Yeah.
What did you think about the Spice Girls joke being included?
Yeah, I mean, it's a joke I think Robbie tells like all the time, so I wasn't surprised that was included. And I think for people who just discover Robbie, get a really good image of who he is, who he was, and of his humor with that one. Yeah.
I find it kind of weird that they included it, because he promised Emma Bunton that he wouldn't say that joke anymore. And he's just included it in his international film.
I mean, John O'Davis said it.
True.
Oh, yeah.
So, kept that promise.
Yeah, true.
I'm wondering whether there were more like little snippets like that, little you know, to another scene snippets, and they had lots of them.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering whether they just picked a few. I'm sure they have more, because we know that there are more.
That's true. I bet there was more.
Yeah. I think Michael Gracie took notes, like lots and lots of notes.
So then we move on to being back at Nicole's flat again, which is the heartbreaking scene where she pushes the ring under the door and he's injecting himself with heroin. I'm sure that he said that he had only tried heroin once, and so I looked it up, and he said, a quote in December 1998, he said he'd only used heroin once and it didn't agree with him, so he didn't do it again. He said, "It was the worst experience of my life, and I can say hand on heart that I will never do it again. Heroin is evil. Nobody should go near it. It was an appalling thing to do." So I do feel like he did actually do it only once, because he's not the sort of person to say... to lie about it, because he's always fairly open about everything. So if he had done it more than once, I feel like he would have just been honest about that. So I do find it kind of weird that they've included that in the film, because it makes it look as though he's more of a drug addict than a heroin addict than he really probably was. So.
Yeah, but whether it happened at that point or not probably didn't. But it just showed that it's considered the lowest of the low that you can get, isn't it? If you're a drug addict, there's plenty more that you can do, but that's like the worst. So he was at his lowest point, and that bathroom scene was really,
my God,
distressing actually, because they don't really show much of the drug paraphernalia. They show the spoon and you know, things going on, but they don't really show, like in Trainspotting, like you do see. People actually injecting themselves, you know, and all the rest of it. You see how to actually do it. But you have to sort of infer that that's what he's doing. But it's obvious. But I think they're just trying to show that lowest of low, aren't they? Point.
when the black kind of floor comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something,
Like
wasn't it?
taking him in, like something from hell. I don't know. It felt like hellish to me, like a scene from hell, from some sort of vision like that. And like the way he described heroin back in the day. I mean, I've never taken drugs, so I mean I wouldn't know, but it makes heroin sound so much worse than any other drug. And the fact that even a drug addict like Robbie thinks this is like the worst kind of drug and he would never do it again. Like he sounds so certain of it.
Yeah.
Makes it seem like, what is this thing? Like, oh my God. And so I can imagine that kind of was like the moment, or what I mean, he said in 1998, so it was quite a bit until he became sober with or from drugs. But I do feel like it was kind of like a moment of awakening for him, like realizing, oh my God, like I have an issue. And he tried to probably ignore it for quite a while after that. But yeah, it makes it seem as though that was the moment he realized this is really bad.
Yeah. And wasn't Rochelle Bano amazing as Nicole? Like, especially in that heartbreaking scene where she's breaking up with him.
So many emotions.
Throwing him out. Yeah, she was wonderful, wasn't she?
Yeah. Incredible. Really incredible performance.
Then obviously the bit where she throws him out the door and then he kind of falls down the staircase. Like when you're watching that the first time, you're thinking, oh my God, he's like falling down the stairs.
Yeah. And then you realize it's a vision, it's a drug thing. Yeah.
But I love how they included something stupid in that moment.
Yeah.
It was really clever. And with the pink feather
thingies.
Yeah. I love that. And then it merges into Top of the Pops backstage and he's still
he just gets up from all the costumes and stuff, doesn't he?
Yeah. They're honestly the transitions are so good between all the scenes. And we move on to Angels.
Yeah, which is the bit that obviously everyone, I guess, was expecting Angels to be featured in the film somewhere. For me, it was the obvious choice. So this is Michael Gracie, so he doesn't do obvious. Would be to put Angels at the end. And actually, for some, when you watch this scene, like I've said to a few others, it seems to have multiple endings, this film, because you keep thinking, that could be the end. It's going to end here. It's going to, but no, it's kind of not really the end at this point, is it? There's quite a bit more to come.
Yeah.
And Angels happens, and he gets that devastating call from his mum about his nan dying, and obviously that's a difficult one because we know that he's been away and missed a lot of family life, and I think that was probably true in real life as well, that he didn't get back home a lot in those early stages. That must have been difficult. But obviously he didn't write Angels about his nan.
No.
There is a song about his nan called Nan's Song. If you're not a fan, then that is the one that he wrote about her. But yeah, as you say, we see him go on stage on Top of the Pops, and my goodness, is that realistic? I mean, it is. If we were watching the original clip of Top of the Pops, and they have got it spot on, like the positioning, the clothing, the set, everything looks exactly the same. It's fantastic.
And how they cut between the studio and the graveyard, how the camera moves up, and then you see the coffin and in front of him, and then it's going between the fans and in the studio and the graveyard, and it's so clever. It's incredibly well put together.
Yeah, and then we get that lovely scene, don't we, with him in the bath again with his nan, where she tells the sword in the stone story.
Oh yeah, God, doesn't that get you?
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, at that point in the movie, like when I first watched it, because I was sat next to a friend who actually discovered Robbie, or was introduced to Robbie through her grandmother, and she passed away, I think, like a year or 2 years ago or something. And we kind of, like, my grandma's luckily still alive, but we both have like our grandmas as very central figures in our lives, or she had, and we kind of bonded. over that, like having our grandmas as probably the most important person in our lives. So that scene, like Angels, just so got us, and we were sat next to each other. And at that point, like I think the entire cinema just listened to our weeping and like sniffing, and it hits different. Like Angels, I mean, as a Robbie fan, there is like an oversaturation of Angels, you know? And I mean, like, you know, people are always like, what? Your favorite song isn't Angels? No, guess what? It's not Angels. And like a lot of people only come to his concerts to hear Angels live for once in their life, I feel like. But for me, it's like, I mean, you know, it's the last song and I'm kind of like emotionally numb to it at that point, unfortunately. But when it was played in the movie with that scene and that context, I've never been this emotional when it comes to Angels before. Yeah. So well deployed as a musical number in that film. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I cried the first time and the second time, but then by the third time I was like, yeah, I'm okay. I don't need to cry. And then weirdly, we watched it last weekend and I cried again.
Yeah, it depends. I think, yeah.
You were relaxed at home. It's different. Yeah. Different setting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everything about that scene is just incredible. The music, the arrangement of the music, the vocals, the slowing down, the pacing and the spacing of it, the cinematography, the setting, the set. I mean, the fact that the Take That boys were telling us that they had put the Top of the Pop studio actually in the cemetery and vice versa, and so they could do those transition effects. I mean, they threw everything at us. So I mean, we've had a lot of emotional points in the film, but then you get to this point and you just think, oh my goodness me,
it can get worse.
They lay it on really, really, really thick, so you get the everything.
At Nebworth, when Rob introduced Nan's song, he did say that his Nan had died 5 years previously, which does make it around 1998, which is just after Angels came out. So probably does have a bit of an emotional attachment to his Nan for him, maybe, because of the timing of that.
I did read that he said that Angels isn't about anybody, but like, you know, in particular, but like about all the loved ones that have passed. So I think, he got inspired.
Links very much, yeah.
But he did say it's about actual angels, isn't he? Like Archangel Michael and Gabriel and whatever.
So I don't know whether you caught this, Sarina, but this is one of the things that we found after watching it a few times, because the transitions that Michael does and his team do are just so seamless. Sometimes you don't see them, you just think, oh, they're in the next scene. But when at the end, when they've got all the black umbrellas and then everyone leaves and then Robbie's walking across to the car and then he starts to get mobbed by the paparazzi, which again is like a really like difficult moment, because it's like, they're still at him, they're still after him, they're still trying to take photos of him. And I think possibly people that didn't know, maybe people that are new Robbie fans, probably don't realise how much he got hounded in the UK. Like when the paparazzi was at its lowest, he was part of all of that. And so that was like, and then there was kind of like a bit of a brawl, wasn't there? And the umbrella got trampled on. Anyway, he jumps in his car. As he jumps into his car, he jumps in, but then closes the door, and then suddenly he's in the settee in his house.
Yeah.
And it's
like, you wonder how did this happen?
Boom.
Yeah.
Then we're in another scene, and it's like, wow, cool.
And then he's watching the two Ronnies again with his Nan, and there's the reflection. He's looking and he can see his Nan in the reflection and himself. But then obviously in real life his Nan's not there, and so he starts smashing his house up. Yeah,
and that dung 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 dung
at the end
piano,
of Angels. Yeah,
it's like, oh God, it's just rage. Just rage in his house.
And he collapses on the floor, and then you see Nate basically turning up, crunching down his corridor through all the broken glass, and then we get the vacuunaut suit,
which is a real thing, right?
Yeah,
is it?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, I heard him talk about it once, but way back when,
really?
but I'd forgotten about it. I'd forgotten that even those things even existed. Really,
I think someone asked him about it in a recent interview, and he said something like it cost, I don't know, did he say a price? I think he said something like $8,500 or something stupid.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it basically it was supposed to suck the fat off you or make it break down, but he didn't think it actually did do anything.
I doubt it did do anything, to be honest.
It sounds like such a I didn't know that it's a thing that actually existed. I thought it was just for comedic. I don't know, for a comedic moment in the film, like after this very, very sad period of or this very sad sequence of scenes. Yeah. But like, you know, if somebody told me that this thing existed, it wouldn't come as a surprise that Robbie Williams used it. And that he tried it.
Yeah. But it's such a, you know, kind of horrible scene where him and Nate having a go at each other, and he's pushing his friend away. His friend's trying to be there for him, and Fraser plays it really well as well. But then there's this, you know, sucking noise going on in the background from the soup. It just makes it funny.
It does, but it's like, it's such a lovely, like, not lovely, but it's like this full circle moment back to the beginning of the film where Nate was the one who was there for him when he got kicked and punched on the soccer field.
Yeah.
And now Nate needs his help and he can't provide, like, you know, so it's like a very it's very sad to realize that this means that he neglected his most precious friendships and relationships in general.
Yeah. And they always say you hurt the ones you love, you know, and it was the cocaine obviously talking as well, but he was so vicious in that scene. It was like vicious, really vicious, really, really horrible. Like Nate's in real, you know, he split up, and he hasn't got
custody
of his kid. That's what I'm trying to say. And you know, and then he's like, trying to chat with his mate about it, and it doesn't go very well, does it?
No,
not nice.
And then obviously Nate goes off, and then Rob goes after him and tears the door off the hinges, and then you get him lying on the door in his lake. And I had to look this up. I didn't know that he did actually own a house with a lake. Apparently it was in Betley in Cheshire, according to Google. So maybe it's true. Maybe he did lie on a door in his lake, or some stuff happened on his lake at some point. But I didn't know that he actually had a house like that. And so then you get Pete coming along, singing Beyond the Sea, which is obviously a bit of a nod towards Rob singing that on the Swing album and it being featured on Finding Nemo. All those Americans who say they've never ever heard of Robbie Williams, and yet Finding Nemo is the biggest selling DVD of all time, I think, as of 2006, having sold 40 million copies. So there's 40 million people out there who've definitely heard Rob sing Beyond the Sea at the end of that film. Anyway.
This part is really difficult to sort of process because it again examines the relationship with his dad, and you know, was his dad really there for him or not? And you know, Rob says, I've waited my whole life for you to step up, and all it took was booking the biggest concert in British history. Pete doesn't come across very well in this part because you know, he sort of says, I didn't leave you with nothing, did I? Where do you think your talent comes from? There wouldn't be a Robbie Williams if it wasn't for me. You're always there for Robbie Williams, Dad. Why couldn't you just be there for Robert? I mean, what a cutting line. Again, full circle back to the Robbie and Robert part, which we all know is very true, you know. And that's why you don't have it. That's why you never made it, not as a husband, not as a father, not as anything. Pete Conway doesn't fucking have it. And then Rob does that massive animalistic scream.
Yeah.
And then the helicopter arrives. It's difficult, that scene, because obviously it's trying to make out that the character, let's say, only thought that Pete was there for Robbie and the fame and, that part of it and not anything else. How much of that is true, we'll probably never know. But
well, Rob told What's On Dubai, I didn't know it was going to be how it turned out. I don't know if I want him to see it. That's his dad. I love my dad. I've got no problems with my dad at all. He's a very lovable, charming man. In the movie, he's not that lovable and charming. The actual version is my father told through my mother's eyes. If it was my dad told through my dad's eyes, it would be a lot different. If it was my dad told through my eyes, it would be a lot different too.
aha.
So I think that they have dramatised the relationship in order to create a story for the film, to get an emotional response from people and to kind of, make a story arc for the film, where it's based around the relationship with his dad, and then obviously it ends with them making up at the end. But I personally don't believe the relationship was as bad as the film makes out. What do you think, Sarina?
Yeah, I was really surprised actually, because I didn't think of their relationship to be like that. Actually, I mean, he's been on tour with him a couple of times, and I even met Pete in Vegas in 2019, and he was just so lovely. And I honestly just didn't expect his relationship to be like that with his dad. And I think I also read something like that, like along the lines of, it's not very accurate, but it's for the dramatic effect. And so I was really glad that it, I didn't perceive it like in the wrong way actually, and it wasn't like that. I mean, there were probably voices like that in his life, especially like in the music industry, who just wanted the brand Robbie and didn't care for Rob. I think he kind of took on the role in the movie of one of those voices, just in general. And that scene, where he's on the door is just floating on the lake is just so symbolic too, because he was just like, lost at sea. And I think they did a really good job integrating, those voices of people just milking his career. But yeah, I was shocked that it was his father who took on that role actually.
Yeah. There's a lot of villains in the film.
Yeah.
Multiple villains, including Rob himself sometimes. But I think they chose to have one underlying villain, and that was the character of Pete. And I don't think that he is actually that harsh or like that. I think he's, as I said earlier on, I reckon he's got a really strong work ethic when it comes to showbiz. But I don't think that he would have. And obviously he was absent for part of Rob's life. They did split up. It must not have been nice, but as Lucy pointed out, that happened when he was very, very young. So Rob actually lived a life of his dad not being at home, because probably when he was 3, he probably can't really remember much of that. Yeah. So he grew up having an absent father, or a relationship with his father that was more of a distance. So I think they've accentuated it for film purposes. And again, who else could be that ongoing villain? There isn't. They probably had other thoughts, but that was the one. The dad that ran away, left the family. That's a classic story, isn't it, that they could lean on. But it wasn't nice. It was very awkward, that moment at the end. I mean, incredibly well played by Steve Pemberton. I mean, him staggering into the water and all that. So good. It's just like, this is horrible to watch, But obviously they got the impact that they wanted through doing it.
I also think it's kind of Robbie, like with the quote you just read. It's Robbie now that he is a father himself, and with Teddy having totally the entertainment gene, and wanting to be famous and popular or whatever. I think it's also kind of Robbie projecting everything he doesn't want to be as a father onto this role that Pete has in the film, kind of. Yeah,
that's a good point. I do love how at the end of the scene where the helicopter comes in, how the fair is all, moving and the water's moving.
The ripples on the water,
It's unbelievable, isn't it? The CGI that they did on Rob there. It's just incredible.
Yeah, a fantastic scene, which takes us into Nebworth.
and it's like straight on his eyes, isn't it? With the sweat dripping upwards because he's upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's saying, "I'm going to die out there. This is the end." And obviously, slowly zooms out and up the right way. And what I do love is how he jumps from the top down to the bottom of the stage, an inhumane jump, but because he's a monkey, he can get away with having little flourishes like that included.
It's also a superhero landing.
Yeah, it was.
Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah.
The fist down. That's a superhero landing. So I did notice that. But yeah. They did Nebworth so well. I mean, it was filmed in, where was it filmed?
Serbia.
Serbia, yeah. So they obviously used a little bit of CGI here and there, but they did use a huge field in Serbia to recreate it. When you look at the original Nebworth, very, very similar. So they did an incredible job of the setting of it, and the fans and the reactions and everything. So it really felt like Nebworth. And Jono, my God, did he nail the moves? I mean, just fantastic.
Oh my God.
It was Rob.
Yeah, the cockish moves and all of that. Yeah,
he
absolutely
had that
spot
down.
on.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he worked hard, didn't he, with Ashley Wallen, the choreographer, on those moves, and it showed.
But once again, the film, I don't know about you two, but the film got me once again. I was like, oh, Rob's at Nebworth. Brilliant. That'll probably be nearly the end then, No, it's not. Because suddenly Rob leaps off, sees all his demons in the audience. And then this bit very much reminded me of The Greatest Showman, actually, because there's a couple of scenes in The Greatest Showman where they focus on people's feet stomping and dancing when they're doing big routines. And you see boom, 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 people's feet going up and down. They go down to their feet and you can see them doing that undertone of the marching sort of to the beat and boom, boom, boom. And then he goes flying down the B stage and launches himself. Basically, they're all his demons at that point, launches himself in. I did not see that coming. And again, I'm so glad that I didn't know that was a scene and that was happening, because it got me completely. I was like, oh, yeah. What's happened to Nebworth? Yeah. Nebworth was good. What's going on? Because we were there. I mean, we were at Nebworth. And
really?
Like, yeah. And it was, so that was like a really poignant scene. It was like, no, bring back Nebworth. Why do this fight scene?
So it was like a very happy memory for you, and now it's like all twisted in the movie.
Yeah,
it's actually a battlefield.
But then I worked out. Then you realize quickly what's going on, obviously. But you then are not prepared for the brutality that comes.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God! When he stabs his child self.
Yeah, that broke me. Yeah. That was horrible.
The scream that the little monkey lets out. Oh my God!
I think at that point I was just looking at the screen through my lashes, because I was just like covering trying to wipe away all the tears. That's just so brutal, that scene, and I think it's just so genius that they took this. To make it a battlefield makes so much sense, because there are just so many people, like soldiers, on an actual battlefield. It's out there, Nebworth, just in just the random landscape or something. So it just makes so much sense. And I at that point I didn't think that there was going to be a confrontation with the demons. I just thought that they were going to go away. Like I didn't even think of any solution to that, actually, while watching the movie. So but I love that they included that to have this kind of catharsis with them.
Yeah, it was really nice, wasn't it, to squash the demons, and make them go away, literally.
Yeah.
And then I wasn't quite sure with that final bit. It's like he's got to kill himself.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, right, yeah, that's like the final test. Like, I am the demon. It is me. All of this was generated from me, and therefore I need to fight myself ultimately, which is what he's been doing all along. But that was like the ultimate one. It was intense.
Super intense.
I also need to just mention that they used real crowd footage from Nebworth mixed in with the crowd.
Really?
So some of the close-up shots of people in the crowd were actual people at Nebworth. So there was a girl that messaged us on our Instagram and said she was in the cinema watching the film and suddenly saw herself on the screen at
No
Nebworth.
way.
And she like let out a little scream because she was like, oh my God, it's me.
I'm in the film. Oh, insane.
So I love that they included a few little
Yeah.
bit like that.
I'm so jealous that I wasn't able to be there back then. Yeah.
So if you listen to us and you were on it and you see yourself on it, let us know. Let us know. Because there's a few more people in some of the shots as well. So, yeah. So, yeah, as if we didn't think the film could take us to an even more traumatic point. It does. And then you're like, oh, what next?
And it's such a shock, isn't it? Like from the like loudness and the craziness of that scene. Suddenly it's just silence and the whiteness of that lake. And just his hands and the blood. And yeah, it's really traumatic.
It is. And I don't know about you, Sarina, but I was saying to Lucy, when they do cut to the lake, it's not immediately apparent what's going on. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, look, he's cutting his wrist. You sort of see that it's happened and then a drip of some blood. But for me, it took me, because I think probably because of the trauma of the last scene, it took me a moment or two to figure out, oh, okay, he's back on the lake and actually he's trying to kill himself. That's not nice. So yeah, the film kind of takes you to the ultimate low of, that's it, he's had enough, he's just going to finish it all. That was tough, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to watch, doesn't even really describe it. It was like, oh. Because I said to Lucy afterwards, he hasn't talked a lot about it, but I think he has had suicidal thoughts. And, you know, and I think, again, knowing what we know about him, it's like, oh, yeah, of course this may have happened at some point or may have been near to happening. And that I think for me was, that overtook my feelings of just how amazing the cinematography and everything was of that scene. I just thought, this is a real person we're talking about, actually.
Yeah.
And he was near this point on probably more than one occasion, which wasn't very nice. I don't know how you two felt when you were watching it, but that's what went through my mind. Kind of the reality of it come to me.
Yeah, here's the thing, because I actually expected it to be about self-harm, because my friend Claudia, she was one of those who like analyzed the trailer, completely took it apart, and she remembered this part in the little document that Chris Heath released for on the website that we could download for some time, and there he actually talks about, like, I have it right here. It says, like, did you actually cut yourself? Ida asks. Yeah, both wrists. When was it? 96 or 7. But you didn't go to the hospital for blah, blah, blah. And then it goes on to just setting the scene that it was, like, in a snowy landscape and near a lake and stuff like that. And her mind immediately went to that part of the little doc, and she was like, do you think it's about that? And I was like, I don't know, like who knows? And then when it actually happened, like, I mean, I was just like, oh my God, like, you were right, like, this is so accurate, because this is like, it actually happened more or less like that. And you would think that scene is just for dramatic effect and just, you know, set out in the scene because of the contrast of the blood and the snow, whatever. But the fact that it's actually so accurate and, based on something that actually happened is absolutely devastating. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you found that, because I knew that I'd read it somewhere, but I couldn't remember where.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it says like,
that.
just slashed my wrists one night, and it was very dramatic. I wandered out and it was snowing and the blood was dripping in the snow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's devastating. I know when we took my mum to watch this, when we came home, she said she couldn't sleep for hours afterwards because she just was so traumatized by it all. And I'd imagine that was one of the things that traumatized her the most.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, it makes a really nice moment in the film when the light shines on his chest and you're taken back to his nan, and his nan kind of rescues him again because he thinks about her and realises that she would want him to live. And yeah, so it brings it kind of full circle back to the mirror in the bath shining on his chest, and you get all those emotions back again about the love he feels for his nan and the love that he could have in his life again if he opened himself up to his friends and family. And then obviously that's when he decides things have got to change and he goes to rehab.
And if you weren't sobbing at that point,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, most people were drivelling mess at
Yeah.
that point. It was just like, as if you couldn't lay it on any thicker, you just have another level of emotion.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, really. But yeah, and what beautiful storytelling at the end. I mean, it just, it lifts the mood back again, doesn't it? Like you say,
Yeah.
Nan's influence and inspiration comes in, and then it's like, oh, okay,
I can do this.
Yeah, and obviously the rehab scene's a bit harrowing to watch because, you know, I'm sure that is what rehab is like, going through all that crap that you went through, and then you see the Heat magazine.
Yeah, Heat magazine. I had to pause it on that when we had it on home video because it's got Helen from Big Brother at the bottom, and then Julia Roberts and George Clooney at the top in the photos.
All right.
Yeah, it does.
And he starts flicking through the book of lyrics, and we were able to pause it on that. And it's got the lyrics for Falling in Bed Again, Pillow Overhead Again, I'll Suffocate with You if you ask me to.
Yes.
And then also the lyrics to Average B-side, Pretend You Like Me, Pretend I Like You, Pretend that This Is Not Happening.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
they
a
included
deep
real
cut.
lyrics. Yeah.
Yeah, now that's a fan Easter egg, if I've ever seen one. But, you know, okay, we've all got digital, we can all get digital copies of it now. But you have got to pause it in exactly the right place to be able to see that because the camera's sweeping over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we studied it for quite a while to make those lyrics out. But that's a definite. Obviously, they wanted the book to be full of real things, and I'm sure that Robbie maybe even showed Michael some of it or talked to him about what was in it. So that was really. I know that everybody that's listening now hasn't seen that. Will be going straight to their digital copy and pausing it at that point.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see it, and obviously, you know, average person on the street wouldn't know what those lyrics are about.
No, they
or
wouldn't
where
recognise
they came
them.
from.
Yeah.
So, but fans do.
So it goes to him being sat in the circle in rehab, and he's saying he was 15. Your life freezes at the age you become famous. So I'm 15. I'm stunted. I'm uninvolved. That's why I'm always. It's okay. I think I'm a cunt. I'm fine with it. It's so I get in there before you do, and I fucking hate myself for it. Oh, when his eyes are like filling with tears at that point.
Yeah.
And you just feel so sorry for him. And then also like that after that they show him shaving his head in the mirror, and that's what he really did when he left rehab in 1997. He did get his
He did.
Oh, I've forgotten her name. His makeup lady, Gina, shaved his head for him. So yeah, little things like that they've included.
And another reflection, because I think
Yes.
it's like he looks into the mirror, broken mirror. Yeah.
Well,
Puts himself together.
That's right.
Exactly. And on that one, it took me a watch or two to realise what was going on, because again, the transition. So I said to Lucy, hang on a minute, he's looking at the broken mirror, he's shaving his hair, which is incredible CGI. Apparently it's really hard to do hair falling. Weta was saying that was really difficult.
I can imagine that, yeah.
But what happens is the camera, so he's looking into the mirror, but the camera actually goes through the mirror, through the other side. On the other side, everything's clean and the house is all sorted again. And then he walks through and into the kitchen, obviously gets the beer and throws that into the bin and stuff. But it took, that transition was so seamless. I said to Lucy, we've just gone through the mirror around the other side, but it just looked normal.
Yeah.
Incredible. Really cool.
You just realized that there was a transition after it already happened, basically.
Yeah. Really cute when he goes to Gary's house and drops off the watermelon.
With a big penis on it.
Exactly. And his initials.
Yeah. He's now driving a posh car, not a banger.
Yes.
Still
I
can't
think it's an
drive
Aston
though.
Martin, isn't it what I told you?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Someone said they thought it was the same car as in the Millennium video.
Oh, yeah. I think that was an Aston Martin, because that's a James Bond style car.
Yeah.
James Bond drove one of those. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robbie Williams, and you're listening to Robbie Williams Rewind with the Champions.
Obviously, he sees Nicole and Liam gives him the finger.
Yeah, that's quite funny.
It is.
He parks the car in the middle of the road. That always irks me. Rather than pulling over to the side of the pavement, he parks in the middle of the road. But it looks better.
I didn't even.
Makes
I didn't
the car
even
look
see that.
better when it's at the middle.
Right. Yeah.
Small things.
He makes up with Nate, which is really cute. The little girl comes out and joins in the hug.
Oh, yeah.
And then probably the cutest bit is going to the graveyard with the telly to play the two Ronnies.
I mean, at this point, right, you've been broken so many times, you just think, they can't do it to me again. I'm happy now. And then it is a happy moment, but my God, that was just...
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whoever
I know.
had that idea, I don't know which one of the writing team or Michael, whoever had that idea to do that, phenomenal. Because it just... I mean, it got you once again, didn't it? It's like, yeah, we can get you again.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the Better Man song was produced by Dan Romer and Jacob Collier. I think basically the vocals on the album version are taken from Rob's 25 version. And I do remember when we reviewed that on our 25 episode, I did say, you know, is this what the song is going to be like in Better Man? Are we going to have some...
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. So we were right. That's exactly why they changed it.
You called it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very haunting, isn't it? I wonder whether they'll sing this on tour, whether they'll do this version or the original version.
I really like it. I especially like I think there's a key change. You know, when they're they're telling the story, it's like an upward lift, an upward key change, which makes you feel happier.
Yes, when he's making amends.
Yeah, when he's making amends and then he's driving the car with Nicole, and it's like, suddenly it sort of goes slightly more upbeat, doesn't it? And, yeah, that arrangement is lovely. How they do that. I think they should keep that version, actually.
I just love that. Like, I just think it's a good title track choice for the movie. Like, I mean, because like when you look at his entire life, and then go back to Better Man, without even knowing or having watched the movie, you would just think, oh yeah, by now he's achieved that. He's become a better man. So I think it's really genius that this is actually the title track they chose for the soundtrack or for the movie, like, you know, the eponymous, it's eponymous of the movie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great title track choice. And then, that this song is picked for the turning point in the movie with all the reconciliations and with him sobering up or, like, you know, going to rehab and all of that just makes so much sense. And thinking that the song came out so long ago that he's now reached that point is just so fulfilling, in my opinion. So I loved it.
Absolutely. And I once again I thought, oh, we're reaching the end of the film, must be the end. But then I realised, I was like, hang on a minute, we were sat in the Albert Hall when they were filming. Where's that bit? And then obviously it transitions
Again
to the Royal Albert Hall.
And it opens with that, looking at that amazing ceiling in there, and then scans down. I always get goosebumps when that bit starts in the film. It's, you know, just that iconic building.
Yeah, and I think before we get into this bit, I would say to listeners or maybe people that are newer to this, the reason why we were at the Royal Albert Hall is because Rob did... So they hired the Royal Albert Hall as a filming location, so for real, which is great in and of itself, because they could have just done it by a CGI, but they actually had the building, which is iconic, and it's an incredible building in London, unbelievable. And Rob did a gig actually at the Albert Hall, so both nights, so it enabled fans and people to go and actually experience a gig in the Albert Hall, but it also enabled Michael Gracie and team to do filming in there of us while we were seeing the gig, and various bits before, different things like do some clapping, stand up, do a standing ovation, you know, laugh. We had to watch this ball going across. We had to do all sorts of stuff like that. But I think it's a testament to the film that they actually did it for real, because we know that Rob's got a special attachment to the Royal Albert Hall. You know, he's famously said there's something in the walls there.
Yeah.
There's something about that building. And so it was like special on top of special for him to have that experience in there, but also for it to be in the film in the way that it was, and for us to be involved in it.
Yeah.
Not that I can see myself in it, but, you know, I've got quite an obvious bald head, but we still haven't found it yet. But...
Were you there at all for that gig?
I wasn't, unfortunately. No, yeah. I would have loved to be.
I did like how they used his original 2001 vocals, you know, at the beginning, including the bit, if you know the words, sing up. If you don't, shut up, it'll sound crap.
Yeah.
I sat next to our son when we watched it on Boxing Day, and he laughed at that bit. So Rob brings his dad up on stage, and it's the Albert Hall, but obviously we know in real life he didn't bring his dad up on stage at the Albert Hall. But in 1999, he did bring him on stage for the first time, which was a BBC special, and he introduced him by saying, "I'm going to bring my first and only guest on tonight. On February the 13th next year, I'll have been a big fan of him for 25 years. People say I look a bit like him, and I sing a bit like him, which is a bit flattering. To me, he's called my dad." So when he did bring him on, it's interesting that those are the words that they've used for this segment as well. So you can see that video. It's a 1999 BBC special. I think it's called One Night with Robbie Williams or something. But they do a lot of the same dance moves that they do on stage in the Albert Hall clip. So yeah, it's quite cute. And one of the best bits of the film.
Oh yeah, towards the end of the Albert Hall filming, there is a clip of Jono, who played Robbie in the film. Obviously, you don't ever see his face because he's CGI'd. But you do, because you see him, it's actually a live shot of him enjoying the show at the Albert Hall with his girlfriend, I think.
Yeah, I think so. His wife, I think he's married.
But yeah, no, he's there enjoying the show, and I think that's a nice tribute to him. Really, really nice. Blink and you'll miss it, but it is there.
Yeah, I mean, like, I love that it's kind of like Robbie kind of got to redeem himself, I feel like, with that, filming that again in the Royal Albert Hall. And now, because the changes included that he like properly thanks his mother, and, you know, that he takes his dad up on stage with him and has this whole bit with him that's not 100% how it went down originally and stuff like that. So and then his dad also saying like, you made it, you're one of the gods or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's also kind of like the full circle moment, like their relationship just come into this beautiful point where they can be father and son, but also can be sort of just two singers on stage. And so I really, really appreciated that scene for that.
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it?
And then I love the final words from Rob. "I'm a fucking entertainer. It might be cabaret, but it's fucking world-class cabaret. And I'm the fucking best at it. Fuck yourselves." Brilliant.
Amazing.
So
I just had to
Robbie.
end on that note, right? Yeah, exactly.
So Robbie, a lot of people probably were like, what? Yeah, that's obviously how he started the film as well, like that cocky manner, but...
yeah, it was brilliant. And just the close-up on his eyes, it was so well done. It's such a good way to end the film.
And especially after like this roller coaster ride of emotions, like crying and then like just feeling all kinds of emotions, mostly sad, and then ending on that note, like
yeah,
just like hold on. Exactly, yeah.
Typical Rob.
Exactly.
And we get to the credits, which is obviously
Red on
Forbidden
Black's quite
Road.
hard to see as well, by the way, in the credits. But we have sat through the Red on Black credits a number of times, haven't we?
Yeah.
And looked at those.
In some cinemas, they turn the lights on the very second he says "fuck yourselves," and you can't even read the credits because the lights are on. So that was annoying.
Had that too, yeah.
Yeah. Other cinemas were a bit better and waited until at least the end of Forbidden Road before turning on the the lights.
I got to ask you a question here, Lucy. Were you excited when you saw what happened in the credits?
What, with the photos?
Yeah.
Yeah, loved it. I loved how they showed the photos, relating back to the film, wearing the exact same outfits that you'd just seen in the film. So for anyone that didn't know Robbie, they could see, oh, look, that was real. He actually wore that weird outfit.
And anybody that got up just as the film ended and didn't see those, you need to see those.
Yeah,
because
stupid.
It's important to see those.
Don't know why you'd leave it.
And see how accurate the film was in terms of the costumes and things.
Yeah.
Like, it's the actual pictures. It's like actually him and not a monkey.
Yes.
So that's also like kind of an important thing to just realize, that we're talking about a real person here.
Yeah.
So
First time he's actually really in the film, yeah? Apart from his voice.
Yeah.
His
Visually,
visual. So if we talk about Forbidden Road.
Yeah.
So Forbidden Road was nominated for Best Original Song at the Golden Globes, the Actors, and the Hollywood Music in Media Awards, and for Original Song for a Comedy or Musical Vision Media Production at the Society of Composers and Lyricists Awards.
It was originally shortlisted for Best Original Song at the Oscars, but was later disqualified when it was alleged that a portion of the song wasn't original, in that it sounded like a part of I Got a Name by Jim Croce, I think it said, which was used in The Last American Hero, Invincible, Django Unchained, and other movies. Unfortunately, that song was written by Norman Gimbel and Charles Fox, with Charles Fox being one of the 3 governors for the Academy's music branch. So that's incredibly unlucky.
Yeah.
Did you hear the resemblance, though?
No, I literally, it's a few bars at the beginning. But when I first played that song, because I heard someone saying it, I was like, didn't hear anything that sounded the same.
Me neither. And I knew I knew the song before that it got compared to. And usually I make that connection when I hear like a sample in a song or something.
Yeah.
Like, I know immediately which song it is if I know the original one. But in that case, I didn't make that connection. I didn't hear it at all.
No.
It just has the same style, but that's not a crime, I guess. So yeah, it's so weird.
I think you've used the right word there, style. You could find
style,
and you could pick any record and say find another one that sounds similar or stylistically the same, and you could find loads.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's happened there. But yeah, you're right. It's just an unlucky set of people and circumstances, I think.
Yeah.
So Forbidden Road was written by Rob, Freddie Wexler, and Sasha Skarbek. Freddie is an American songwriter and producer who's worked with Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, Selena Gomez, Kanye, Billy Joel, and the Jonas Brothers, Demi Lovato, Pink, Celine Dion? God, there's a whole list. Demi Lovato, Pink, Celine Dion, Avicii, and more. Sasha is a British songwriter and producer who co-wrote You're Beautiful and Goodbye My Lover with James Blunt, as well as Wrecking Ball with Miley Cyrus. He's also worked with Adele, Lana Del Rey, and more.
Freddie told Yahoo that Rob contacted him after he'd worked with Billy Joel on his first song in decades. Rob had followed the story, liked the song, and asked if they could meet. They started writing music together, with Rob telling Freddie that Michael Gracie was still looking for the perfect song for the end credits, one that felt like a hug after the trauma of the film. Freddie shared an acoustic idea with Rob, which Michael then liked. He said, Rob's life, as depicted in the film, is about so much more than fame. It's about the search for love, for validation, for connection, and the song had to encapsulate all of that. It had to feel intimate but also expansive, personal but also vast and universal, and I think that it works. The title carries so much weight. He's taken paths that society might label as forbidden, and they've shaped who he is. The line that really anchors the song for me is, I'm not the only one. There's a sense of defiance in that, almost a quiet plea for understanding. It's like saying, this is my journey and I know I'm not alone in this path. It's raw and honest and very true to who Robbie is.
Freddie also said that Michael was more concerned about how the song made you feel in the cinema at the end of the film, rather than whether or not the song was going to be a success or a hit.
So what do you think of Forbidden Road, Sarina?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, it was the first new Robbie song in such a long time, so I was just super excited in the first place. And I mean, like, has Robbie ever brought out a really bad song? Like, there are just so few songs that I never listened to, actually. And so I didn't expect it to be like, a flop or anything for me. So and I was kind of surprised that it was such an uplifting song and like kind of like folk pop-ish a bit maybe. Because that's a style he's never gone for before, I feel like, only in Weakness maybe. But then when it was actually like, I mean, I loved it when I first listened to it. And then when it was used at the end of the credits, I realized why it makes sense to have something uplifting, or what you just said in that quote, like a hug at the end of such a sad and emotional journey. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was very appropriate. Obviously, I know that he presented Michael with a couple of different ideas of songs, which I'd love to hear the other ones.
Yeah.
And Michael, he didn't. He knew what he wanted. He knew the style that he wanted, so he said no a couple of times. But it's really appropriate and a lovely, lovely song. I hope that he plays it on tour.
Yeah, he's got to.
I think he has to. I think it'll be a nice moment, actually. Really beautiful song. And just lovely, lovely lyrics. And it was a shame that it had to kind of get into that mess with, the legal thing. But I think, Rob's been involved in those kind of things before. I think he'll get past that. And it's just a lovely song. It finishes the movie off so well. And I think it says something about the perfectionist that Michael Gracie is, for not just accepting any old Robbie song. He wanted a particular one that really gave you that hug, and it does. It's lovely.
Yeah, I think it's stunning. Can't wait for him to sing it live. He has sung it live a few times. Did you see him sing it in Germany?
Unfortunately not, because we didn't get VIP tickets for the premiere, so we weren't invited to the after party.
Okay.
But some of my friends got in, and they loved it and sent us videos immediately. So and obviously it's all over the internet. Yeah, if you're in the Robbie bubble.
Yeah, my favourite is the bridge. So do you love me now, or did I let you down? You said you wanted all my secrets, so I showed you all my demons. Do you love me now? When I listen to it, I always kind of feel like the song ends too soon. I feel like it should go on a bit longer. Do you feel that?
I get what you mean. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah. It is quite short, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, it just meanders around, and then there's a bridge, and you just feel like, that could go on for a bit longer. Yeah.
And it kind of does annoy me that people didn't sit in the cinema and listen to it at the end. At least from some of the showings that we went to.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. As a side note, I did also notice in the CD booklet, because I wanted to look at the lyrics. So I was looking at the CD booklet, obviously, as you expect to see the lyrics in there. And it says, go to bettermanmovie.com/soundtrack credits for the lyrics. But you go to that website and it doesn't exist. Oh. And it just takes you to paramountpictures.com. And then on paramountpictures.com, you can't even find anything on the front page about Better Man. So, I don't know what's going on there. But maybe that could get fixed, or they could put the lyrics on Rob's website instead. That would be
help.
Better. Yeah.
I mean, for a while, when you put in Rob's website, it went to the Better Man website.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
And then it switched back. So, so weird.
Very strange. But I love Forbidden Road, and I think it's beautiful, and can't wait to hear it on tour. He better sing it. It better not be another Lost where he drops it after a few days.
I loved hearing Lost live.
Yeah.
No, we need it.
It needs to be played.
To be in.
Include it.
Come on, Rob and team. It needs to be in.
And pull through with it.
and survive the tour.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, Sarina, any other thoughts or anything else that you wanted to say about Forbidden Road or Better Man or anything else?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know. I'm so glad that it kind of, I remember talking to you guys in Munich, and that you told me that the idea of the podcast was to talk about Robbie's discography and his career in order to kind of look back at how pop culturally significant he was back then, and that it's so sad that kind of faded. And that just so resonates with my idea of his career, and because I mean, obviously with 28 years old, I didn't have a lot of peers who were into Robbie Williams, and I always felt like that's so sad, because I do think his music is quite timeless, and I do think he is one of the gods and one of the greatest. And now seeing so many people discovering him, and like there being TikTok trends with like rock DJ, and there was a time when every second video on my For You page on Instagram or on TikTok was just like people either defending Robbie and being like, listen, American, like like he's huge, and only just because you don't know him doesn't mean he's not huge and he's not an international pop star, or the American perspective of being like, who is that guy? And like either way, it just pushed him in like the algorithm. And I think it introduced a whole new, not generation, but a whole new target group to him and his music. And I'm just so happy that that moment has finally come, because I felt like it needed to come, sort of, also for him, and he deserves it. So yeah, he deserves to go down in history like one of the gods, like one of the greatest, and not being regarded as that, like, I don't know, that arrogant, take that drop out, you know, and that he got to tell his story, and that was the platform now that made him pop culturally significant again. Is so rewarding in a way. Yeah.
I love that. I think also what you said there reminds me of the fact that there are so many good moments and positive moments in his career that actually, because of the way the film was told, were not always evident. You know, like one of the most successful male solo singers in the UK, huge amount of Brit Awards. How many Brit Awards?
18, I think.
Yeah.
18, yeah.
So many accolades, so many awards in different countries as well. So even through all of that struggle, there were a lot of positive moments. And of course, the film couldn't really tell all of those, or didn't really tell all of those. And obviously now he's in a very, very positive place indeed. And there was a lot that happened since the Royal Albert Hall ending, so much, in fact. So it doesn't completely show, like you said, the absolute success that he's been and what he's really achieved even since that. So hopefully it's good that that is happening on socials, and people are beginning to sort of go, hang on a minute, I'm going to go and take a look at this guy and really see what he's about. So the film's an important anchor for that, but it shouldn't be the only thing that people look at and go, oh, that was Robbie Williams. They need to know that he's still there, still going strong. He's in his third act, as he said. So,
and one thing, obviously, I realised that we've forgotten to say is that the Better Man soundtrack provided Rob with his 15th UK number one album.
While we're talking about discography.
Small detail.
Small fact.
Yeah, that's what our podcast is about. But yeah, hopefully people have listened to the end of this epic episode to get that. But yeah, that was great news. Yeah. And why not? And you said it to me earlier on, but I think it's worth saying. So glad I didn't hear the soundtrack before the film. Would have ruined it. Yeah. Even though I know all the songs, but the way they were done and everything. Yeah. So, but yeah, what an epic soundtrack really is. It's good. Do you listen to it, Sarina? The soundtrack,
yeah, I do. It just comes randomly on shuffle when I'm shuffling through my Robbie playlist, and just I was driving home from work the other day, and the Come Undone film version came on, and I was like, oh my god, okay. If I don't really focus, I might do something extremely reckless. No, yeah, I do listen to it all the time. I mean, there are some versions that I like where I prefer the original. For example, like with Rock DJ or with the She's the One duet version, it's a completely different song for me in a way. Like both versions, it's like not like a substitute version, it's like an additional version in a way. Yeah, I mean, for Angels, I mean, how many versions of Angels are there?
Yeah, it must be at least 10.
The Spanish one, and then the Beethoven AI, so many versions. But I love it.
Well, thank you, Sarina, for joining us on the show and spending your entire Saturday afternoon with us. I'm sure it will all become good in the edit, so hopefully our listeners don't have to listen to us talking for 4 hours solid. But there was a lot to cover, so thank you. Really appreciate it. And it's lovely to hear your story as well. We are both so glad that we met you in Munich and shared that experience with you, and I've seen you since, and are able to, bring you on and hear your perspective on your Robbie fandom, but also Better Man as well. Thank you.
Absolutely, likewise. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. And it's so nice to bathe ourselves in Better Man world, Robbie world.
Yeah. It's the bubble we've all been living in for 2 months now.
Yeah.
More than 2 months.
It feels like a therapy session just talking about it. So
right, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you too.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening if you made it this far.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be back with a new episode soon.
Yeah.
We do have...
We've got an idea in the pipeline. But
we do have guests which we are still working on. Some of the guests in the Robbie world and now the Better Man world are harder to get than others or take longer to get than others. So we've got more on the way. So keep listening for those.
Yeah.
So yes, Sarina, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll
see you
soon. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Have a good one. Bye.
Robbie Williams Rewind.